ain't bad. Gotta do it best. Shout out to my angel, she a mess. Clean up when she stressed, never stressing me. Lucky please, I'm the luckiest. Feel it in my chest. Treasure you, I swear you a diamond. Ring, 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 ring. Love calling me. Ring like the camera is free when she calling me. Ring, 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 ring. Love calling me. Love call again. And I ain't miss a call yet.
Again, I've been nothing but a girl who really should be nothing less. Don't mess up, and don't you tell us so how you actually feel. If you do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you climb your way up. You shit out of luck. Nobody will help if you're flying too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Cause you're gonna get burned. They say you should never roll all the dice without a hand. It's make or break when you never did stand a chance. Don't mess up, don't you tell us so how you actually feel. If you do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you climb your way up. Do it on your own when you shit out of luck. Nobody will help if you're flying too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. be quiet. I hear the thunder that comes from far away. It's like a noise in my head. Oh, this world hurts, this world hurts. It gets you deep and leaves the sky. Oh, this world hurts, this world hurts. It gets you deep and leaves the sky. 'Cause things fall apart and it frees your heart. It's no longer the same. 'Cause things fall apart and it frees your heart. It's no longer the same. We need to get up. We need to get up. We need to get out of here. We need to get out of here. All we need to do is to get out of here. We need to get out of here. We need to get out of here. All we need to do, we need to get out of here. Cause things fall apart and it frees your heart. It's no longer the same. We need to get up. We need to get up. Oh, this world hurts, this world hurts. It gets you deep and leaves the sky. All the barricades, I wanna know why they hold me back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smite Prime Time this Friday night, week 4 coming in here. I'm D'Lo, joined here by the spookiest of Mars. We got almighty eyes in the sky. It's Tess and Cash Money Mort, and Jithin's the man behind the curtain, seeing all, hearing all, doing it all. Spooks, how we feeling?
Feeling a lot better than the weather outside is feeling right now, D'Lo. We might be in the middle of a rainstorm, but it's all nice and fine when you're cozy, watching the battle for Asgard unfold in front of you. Moods left. Employment LARPers, the first ones tonight. We're gonna have a clean game here. I don't know if you've taken a look at the rosters just yet, but I think it's going to be very interesting.
Employment LARPers, a team that's been making a bit of a splash here in the Founders series. I mean, moving on to that Founders bracket. Moods, not a team I'm particularly familiar with, but you're gonna be very familiar with the Blade end of this Storm Kata. Sano being their first pick, Bacchus to match. We've already got some mobile fighters.
And not too surprising to see these guys picked up so early here. Pretty much kind of what you're expecting at the top end. Susano still does Susano things. He's been moving across the map. He's been deleting everyone he can. And if you're going to be facing that, you might as well pick up this Bacchus. Try to have a beefy frontliner who can dish some damage out as well. I like the Emir as well. It still gives you some mix-up potential from employment LARPers. A lot of times we've seen this Bacchus going over towards the solo lane, but we've also seen the Ymir over there as well. The Odin band, you're not really looking for the counter pick for this Ymir, so I'm expecting to see Ymir go over towards the duo lane and act support. But we've seen crazier things than a Ymir jungle in the past.
What we're seeing here is a very clear disparity in terms of draft prioritization with Jingwei and Hakate being locked in, now just getting that Neath for Employment LARPers, there's a clear disparity in terms of securing your front line versus getting your back line down first. Which draft philosophy do you think has superiority?
It really depends on how you want to approach the fights, right? And really, it kind of counters itself, right? If one team is picking all their frontliners, the other team is more than free to pick backliners who can play around those frontliners and feel good about it. It's really more about how they come together as a whole. With Neath Kukulkan being locked in for Employment LARPers, it's certainly an interesting draft coming through here. You can get good engage with the Bacchus, some follow-up with the Amir. Maybe they're planning on dropping a World Weaver Neatholt into the Spirit of the Nine Winds from Kukulkan. That has a lot of blow-up potential. The mobility from Moods left here, I think, is going to cause some problems for Employment LARPers.
You know what? You mentioned that fact of, okay, you make your front line, we have tools to counter it. I will say, Ymir Wall kind of throws a wrench in the midst of moods, kind of puts him in a sour mood, if anything. Glorious Charge, blocked. Agility, blocked. Storm Kata, blocked. Jetstream, blocked. Aresol, you're not escaping yourself, buddy. They ban that Odin. Employment LARPers say you still got to deal with obstacles in some way, shape, or form.
I think this wall is a lot less significant for Moods than the Odin cage would have been. For one thing, it has the knockback on it now. She can help the Jingwei out because it puts her up into the air, makes the agility go that much further. And you do have a good amount of mobility with the agility. You can direct yourself away from danger. And if need be, fine. You can drop the airstrike and use the CC immunity to try to avoid the frost breath that comes out afterwards. It's all dependent on timing and where this is being placed. Personally, for my money, I think Ama is just gross in the solo lane right now. Wait, Chalk got picked as well. Is this a Chungle? I don't like him in
This might
solo.
just be a Chungle.
It might be a
I'm a
Chungle.
big fan of the Chungle just because that rotating mass silence is such a fantastic impact in any gank to see. Instantly, okay, you're worried about the Ares counterpunch. Can't even be using that. Your sweet lips as we guide you to the nice afterlife thanks to that storm call. So if Employment LARPers can get the drop on someone, they can hopefully drop someone.
Employment LARPers can certainly do so, but they have to be careful on how they approach these fights. Because you take a look at this draft, and you've got two CC immune ults in Ymir and Chalk. That means you are going to have to go beads on Neath and Kukulkan, or at least Talisman of Purification on the support, which I assume to be Ymir. But even then, you cannot rely on just that talisman all the time. Your backliners need to have their own safety to make sure they're not getting caught out by this Ares. One good blink, and it could just be completely lights out. You can be the ones to start the fight and go to drop a Chalk ult on Mood's left. If Ares just decides, hey, this looks like a great spot to just start channeling no escape, your backliners better have an answer.
That's going to be a really interesting point to see. You know, if Bacchus bears that talisman, Ymir bears that talisman, both gods that aren't really going to be sitting around babysitting. They're more so trying to aggress on the opposite backliners. They might not be around to share the love, share those beads with Neath and Kukulkan, who both do not have any CC immunity built into their kit. So looking for Moods to try to take advantage of that fact. Both of these tanky front lines are really just looking for their opportunity to get that one clean hit off that can set your team for success. Will it be the case? Let's find out and get into game here, Spooky.
That sounds like a plan to me, D'Lo.
Welcome, everyone. Moods
Wow.
versus Employment LARPers. So quick, isn't it? Like a flash. It's my prime.
I was expecting like a longer drive or something to get to Asgard.
You'd figure the commute's a lot rougher, but man, have they really improved their public transportation system. America could never. Moods, LFT, Employment LARPers, D'Lo, Spooky. Two good teams lighted up against here. And I got to ask you the question, comp for comp, early game, who's running this biz?
Early game, it depends on where you look. I do think Moods LFT has a slight advantage in the jungle and in the solo lane. Ama has just been really gross. Yes, Bacchus is like the top end of the pick ban list right now. In my opinion, and it is a humble opinion, I think he's good as Ama is. And given where he started on the map, they might not even like see each other for a hot minute. We'll come to that later. But you look over in the mid lane, you look over at the duo lane. I think Employment Lepers just have a little bit stronger of a draft right now. I think they have more tools to get active early, especially in that duo lane. Jingwei is not known for her early aggression. I also think we might have misplaced a couple of these picks because take a look where Snatty is. He's on the Ares. He's over on the right side.
Interesting. Okay, so we're changing things up a little bit. Ares not going to be fighting those no escapes until maybe a bit later. What does that mean in terms of your team fight? How does that change since you're not going to be searing that no escape over here in the mid and left for a little bit of time?
Honestly, it doesn't change all that much because Moods on this Ama still has a really good team fight ult and arguably is better at just running at people with the damage mitigations on her shield. The reflecting mirror scales with int now, so the damage mitigations scale with how much intelligence you have. You add on to the fact that you've got an Ares on the right side who can build a little bit of damage over there. Some hybrid items start scaling that passive a little bit more. I'm not sure how much damage Moods is going to take as this game goes on. They certainly have the tools to get aggressive early.
And what's also interesting this means is Ymir's taken to the soul lane, despite having a mobility ability with that wall, is not affected by that cripple. Could be something that Ares has to contend with, because you can't melt that ice no matter how much you try to flamethrower it down on that wall.
Yeah, I think moving Mink Stinkus onto this Ymir and putting him into the solo lane against this Ares, that's actually a very good idea here. If you're the Bacchus, having those chains come out really hampers you. The fact that your stun is a channel as well means that you're going to be taking damage from the flames. Ymir doesn't have that problem. He can simply say, oh, you're chaining me. You want to breathe some fire? Ooh, achoo, you're frozen. No more chains. It makes the matchup a lot more difficult for Snatty, and he pretty much can't use his Searing Flames until Frost Breath is on cooldown. And Frost Breath's not going to be on cooldown unless Mink Stinkus is getting aggressive.
Employment LARPers, kind of team killer cold. Ymir sneezes, you're stunned. Kukulkan sneezes, you're dead. So best be careful once that Spirit of the Nine Winds comes online. So far, haven't seen too much aggression from either side, just deciding to kind of respect each other's space. If the game's pace is slowed down to a bit more of a grinding pace, who do we think benefits more from that?
I do think Mood's LFT scales not a little bit better, quite a bit better. Brendar on this Neath, yeah, he's going to be doing some good numbers as the game goes on. He doesn't hit like an ADC does. He doesn't build crit and have a big attack speed steroid like an ADC does. When Jingwei starts reaching late game and gets her items online, the damage output is going to beat what Brendar can do because he's reliant on his abilities. Once the cooldowns are there, he can't really do a whole lot. Yeah, he can still basic and they will hurt if he's building right, but they're not going to match the damage output of Sokka. And that's not even talking about Amaterasu, who we've already said can just run at people very easily. As the game goes on, she scales very well. That has not changed from Smite 1. Reflecting Mirror is going to come online. She's going to ignore damage, and she's going to go into the Dazzling Offensive, and someone is getting stunned. Probably multiple people, now that her last swing is a full 360 AoE.
Someone is maybe looking for a gank here on this Ares, but just not quite able to find them. That great positioning, eking out to that right side. Snatty was very privy to the potential of that. They'll suffer in the form of losing that red, but you know what? Better lose your red than be dead. Might be the case here for this Bacchus going in deep with the invade. Have he pulled back? No, not going to be wind siphoned away. They're still looking for it, though. The Typhoon going to knock him up, and the Floppus might just be taking a flop here in the midst of the duel lane. Those basics, though, running a bit wide. The Glorious Charge finds a bit more damage. The Belch going to find a stun on one. The Floppus over the side. Jingwei needing to find that last bit. Can you get him through the grass? How are you still alive? No longer. Jingwei gets that first blood for Sokka.
Man, I mean, Skepso just puts on his little heelys and starts wheeling around trying to break the ankles from Moose LFT. He does a good job of buying himself some time, but unfortunately goes down at the end. Great spacing from Moose on that one. Saka being aware that, Scapiso doesn't have anywhere to go other than over the wall, so he doesn't commit to the chase. He hangs back, sits in the bush, and waits for him to come over because his choices are either die on the other side of the wall or jump over and die to Saka. Great awareness there. Fortunately for Employment LARPers, they don't really get to do anything with the time that he was buying for them. Not a whole lot was going on the map. Not a whole lot of camps were even up to invade or try to take for yourselves. So at the end of the day, though it took a long time, Moot LFT is very much okay with that first blood taking so long.
Especially with who is going to be the pockets of. You talked about that scaling. Guess who's going to be scaling just a bit quicker because of it? Saka. That rocks. We'll take it. And now as this Gold Fury spawns, this has been such an interesting point of contention for the great teams and the excellent teams. When do you take advantage of that? When do you take advantage of this Hekate? Could be in trouble. Open the gates. Going to be putting you right back in the tower, but the jungle doesn't really have too much to say at the respect. Kukulkan used that sneeze, but unfortunately wasn't quite the most accurate. Some wiggles there from Moose just to really strut your stuff. No mids died just yet.
I mean, you got to, right? When you get an escape like that, you got to feel good. You got to make sure the enemy team knows that you're feeling good as well. As for when you can take advantage of the Hekate, it's kind of tough to do, right? Though she doesn't have a lot of traditional mobility, she's not a very risky mage to be playing. She has good safety. She's got the mez, and she's got herself a shield, and she's got herself the big teleports, the portals that can just take you into a terrible spot. Hold that thought, though, because over here, I see some action coming through again.
Could be a bad spot here for the Shock. It actually changes the odds. That dazzling offensive does find their back. And here comes their brother to assist. The Typhoon going to knock up the Bacchus once again. Storm Kata going to cut him down to size. Bite-sized Bacchus pieces litter the dual lane a second time.
I mean, that's what you got to do, right? If they're going to pick this Bacchus, you got to find a way to abuse it and make sure that it's not scaling and doing the things it wants to do. The whole point of picking this Bacchus is I want to be able to jump in and I want to be a nuisance and I want to make you guys really just hate the fact that it got through picks and bans. The best way to mitigate that is put it down early and get yourselves a lead. This Gold Fury, great step into doing that. Puts them about 1,000 gold ahead. More importantly, it puts the Bacchus behind and makes his job that much harder. It's so difficult to get active when doing so just gets you killed.
It's just, again, what really decides that difference? Good teams, great teams. The great teams take that inch, they make it a mile. Employment LARPers trying to make some gains of their own here with this Queen Naga. Not too shabby for yourself, but unfortunately, the real whole enchilada has already been gobbled up by Mood. So Employment LARPers, when it comes to just their tools to get back into this game, they're still by no means down and out. What do we think that is?
You said enchilada. Do you think there's fury meat in enchiladas? I just want to ask you that real quick.
In the Smite universe, you never know, but hopefully either way, they're ethically made. Cage-free Furies, that's what I say.
Is it cage-free if it can't leave the pit?
Ooh, now that's where the real ethical quandaries begin. I've got to say, Spooks, I don't know. We're going to have to wait for a press release from Hindu Man to find out.
Well, I'm sure we'll get to that in due time. Meanwhile, Bacchus, Peso finally getting active on the game as well. Moose goes down. That's a great start for Employment LARPers, though they've lost a couple kills here. They're really not too far behind. Go back to your point here. They did just pick up an objective for themselves. They grabbed the Queen Naga. I'm sure we saw that happen. They're doing a good job of staying even on this map. They're only a few hundred, not even a few hundred behind right now. They can continue scaling to this mid game. The mid games where they really have to start accelerating themselves. As we mentioned, they don't really want to take a late game fight against Mood's LFT. They would like to have an advantage before then. So when you start reaching the 10-minute, 12-minute, 15-minute mark, I think that's where we're going to see Employment LARPers start to try to group up a little bit more. Natty pulls one back in the tower. Shouldn't be too much trouble there for him.
Yeah, that wall is just a really big thorn in Ares' side. It's like, man, you're supposed to be crippled. And Ymir says, wee! Nope. Shock. Gonna make the rotation on over, maybe to answer the call, knowing that no escape is down. Ymir posturing aggressively. That chain goes down. and that's not going to help you out any longer. Here comes a shock to bring the
Ooh.
damage, to bring the
Oh, so
rain.
slow.
The shards of ice is now hailing. It's storming. You're dead ski. Ares goes down.
Man, the combined slows there from Employment LARPers
Mean.
really just sealed Snatty's fate. It's one thing to be stepping on the glacier. It's another thing to be trying to trek through mud, trying to get off of it. He just could not go anywhere. Excellent coordination from the Employment LARPers, and that's the kind of coordination that's really going to carry them through this mid game. When they were combining these big circular ultimates that have so much CC on them, this is what they're looking for. Catching Moods trying to go for this blue buff. Keep your eyes on the left side. We've got a rotation.
Khan's coming in from the wings, waiting to give us that grand big sneeze. The gate's going to open up, and Ymir's going to come alongside, and that Typhoon sweeps him up. Kukulkan ult wards them off. Going to hide beneath that red buff. You can't fool me. Hecate takes the kill, makes it 3-2 in favor of Moods. And with that, Employment LARPers recognizing might have overstayed our welcome. They retreat back to the jungle.
No, that's a big rotation from Moods LFT. And all they've really done is get one kill and secure their own jungle. That's a good thing to do, make no mistake. You don't want to just let them invade you. But it's not extending your lead very far. You can see it really hasn't budged whatsoever. As the infamous gold buff fight starts up, it finally goes the way of Moods. No aggression still coming through on this mid lane.
Without that Spirit of the Nine Winds, though, there's not too much to fear at such a grand range. Especially when you have that nice shield, a big burst of health that can get you out of a pinch. Not too big of a deal. Now, about 10 minutes in. 3-2 still. 30,000 to 30,000. This is a dead even game at the moment here. And we're just waiting for that timer to tick down, like you said, Spooky. The further that mood scales, the more they stand to win. So they're just happy to play this one slow. It's Employment LARPers who really got to pick up the pace. And just as we say that, looking to put the aggressive hand on this Fury. There are members aware, though. Moods says that's not the mood at all. You really should not try that one for you. Employment LARPers agree. They back off. Here's the Chungle, though, around the back end, slowly wrapping around. Take some poke for their troubles. They're going to rejoin their team.
I'm actually a little disappointed Employment LARPers doesn't try to push a little bit more with that. I really like the idea there to just start forcing something at the Gold Fury. It ends up being a little bit more of a heat check than anything. Employment LARPers have found out that, yes, Moods LFT do, in fact, have awareness around the Gold Fury. They've got vision down, and they're not going to let them take it for free. Still, I think they could have looked to group up and maybe try to catch Moods as he stepped all the way up. Sure, he's an Amaterasu. He's got defense online, but his first item is this Eye of Providence. He's not super tanky. And instead, Moods LFT that now has the front foot on the Gold Fury.
Especially when Employment LARPers, they have all the Sunders in the world, but all the Sunders cannot buy you the plunder. Moods take a second Fury for themselves, despite having the Relic disadvantage, is continuing to prove their objective dominance.
Yeah, and this is, again, I like that you brought that up because I was just looking at these relics they picked up. 3 Sunders. They've got all the objective confirmation in the world. They can do whatever they want. They've got the damage for it. Just about everyone is level 10, just waiting for Scapeso to hit that level 10 mark. And they've got a 3,000 damage confirm, not counting Spirit of the Nine Winds. They should be able to roll to literally any objective and simply say, hey, this belongs to us now. The only thing that might make it difficult is they don't have the traditional shred, right? They've got this Neath in the ADC role rather than something like a Soul who can put out very quick basics and really spread the health bars down. But even with that, you've still got a Neath. She can do burst damage. You've got the tornadoes from Kukulkan. You can make these plays, and even if they're taking longer, even if the enemy decides to answer you there, they have to look for the fight because they can't out-secure you.
In paper, they should be able to, but so far the paper's all stacking up the way here of Moods, and trying to stack some more bodies for the count here. Sokka goes aggressive, Neath backs up. Does not seem like either one of them really want to test the metal quite just yet without some additional divine intervention. But looky here in the mid lane, 4 gods stacking up. But the question is, when will the tension explode? Amaterasu going in aggressive just a little bit, trying to prove their metal here. Looking to see it might get caught out on that Pyromancer pit. Here comes the big sneeze. Here comes the big dazzling offensive. Floppus might flop to their grave in just a second. Amaterasu brings that kill down on Scapeso's head. And with that, Moods satisfied with their earnings. They might just try to find a bit more. Pluck it off the ground with a nice little wind siphon. Jungle gonna fall as well to the hands of the Hecate. 2 more kills here for Moods.
man, that was just so disoriented from Employment LARPers. They're still in the retreat. Finally, Meek makes his way into the mid lane and says, okay, guys, that's enough. You can take a few steps back. But all that was Mood's LFT just being better grouped and more in position than Employment LARPers were. Fear of the Nine Winds tried to come through and cut through the fight, but Mood's LFT simply took a couple steps back and said, oh, no, we actually don't really want to take all that damage. Thank you very much. And as soon as it passed by, they surged back forward. And that's something that Ama does very well. She can move around so quickly, and because she gives that buff to her team, it makes it so hard to really lock them down. Bees were forced out from Bacon, so he's now a lot more vulnerable. And all they really have is Peso with the Talisman of Purification. And he's just now finished his Eye of Providence to try to get some vision down. Employment LARPers really feel like they're on the back foot right now.
So, I don't know, having their back to the wall, but that's just
Oh my.
okay. They don't want to be looking anywhere but forward. Ymir can be a bit of trouble, forces those shards of ice just to get them to back off. Yeah, worth noting, Neith used her ult during that fight, but for not too much impact felt there by Brendar, which is unfortunate. When you have that global ultimate, you want to see it being put to good use, and it's not just for a lack of ability to do so. They're making sure to use it at the right times, but the damage is just not enough to really contribute, and Employment LARPers have not had a chance to find their own rhythm and flow. Now it's Moods. Grouping efficiently, like you said, 3-man strong, looking for this tier 1 tower. Employment LARPers can do nothing but flee.
They simply don't have the damage output to work through this huge front line. Great no escape, pulls Peso back in. I don't think he has anywhere to go. He should fall. He's out.
Nice freeze there. That's why you pick a Ymir. Solo support does not matter. This god does the work. And at least in this case, gets their support out. That does leave an opening. Moods leering at this FG. Ares patrolling the tier 2 tower says, don't you dare take a step out. Mama will be back in a second. Ymir, a very crafty one, decides to take a few toes out just to see what their parents could be up to. Tower goes down the left side, but the whole enchilada this time is going to be this cage-free organic fire giant. Bacchus wants a slice of that. Not going to be granted it. Amaterasu cuts it to shreds themselves. FG on 5 members here of Moods.
Extremely intelligent fire giant pull. You might think, okay, well, we forced a couple people out. They're not really the damage guys, but they are 2 of the 3 Sunders forced away from the side of Employment LARPers. That leaves the fire giant so free for Mood's LFT. They capitalize on it very perfectly. Love to see the aggression from them. Sure, they trade out a Gold Fury for it. That's not the end of the world. You are more than happy to take that one, because guess what? You're in a great position to start taking these tier 2 towers down. Next Fury that spawns is going to be the Ancient Fury. And that's really the one the Moods LFT wants to look at to start breaking this game wide open. This Fire Giant is to establish the lead. The Ancient Fury, that one's to start closing the noose.
17 minutes. 5-2. Kills haven't increased all too much in the meantime, but the gold lead certainly has. That's about 5,000 out of the names of Mood. They're just going to keep that pressure going with all of this global gold left on the map. These tier 1 towers are about to start crumbling like dominoes. What do the LARPers have to do on the defensive end? Can they hold these structures?
The tier 1s, not a chance. Those things are going to go down. They simply cannot withstand the damage from a grouping Moods LFT alongside the Fire Giant. Oh, if they're not grouped up correctly, they might find themselves in a bad spot.
Amaterasu using that dazzling offensive just to get themselves a bit
Oh,
more
man.
positioning. The Neath ult is incoming, but Bacchus incoming to that fountain with the quickness there. Dropping that Amanita for Moods. They're just going to restore all that health on top of all that HP 5, and all that damage is going to bring that tier 1 tower crumbling down. Neath backing, potentially recognizing the team might need their assistance. It's already a handicap match. And Moods stand strong with all their health bars still full, waiting for any member to take a toe out of line to try to snap shut some more damage right on top. Tier 2 tower goes down as well. Moods don't want to overstay their welcome. They retreat back.
Losing a tier 2 tower at the 18-minute mark with no fight whatsoever just kind of feels bad. I'm not going to say it was the wrong decision. I think it was absolutely correct for Employment LARPers to just give that one up. But it doesn't feel good from a morale standpoint, right? They could have had a defense there if they hadn't lost Peso so early on. They take a little step out, get caught, And you just see how quickly this Bacchus melts when he is behind. He's level 11 right now. For context, Moods is in fact a support, and he is level 14 for Moods LFT. SK Peso is just not having a good time, and it's going to be very hard for him to find any way to make an impact. He's pretty much forced to play off of Codster's engagements and his ultimates. And it really feels like you want it to be the opposite way around. You want this Bacchus to be the first one in. You want him to be the one taking these hits because he's so good at tanking them and ignoring them. So not having that strategy available just makes it so much harder for the entirety of Employment LARPers to play this game.
What also makes it so difficult is all the abilities we're pouring here into Moods. But like you said, the mobility of this Ama, especially in that dazzling offensive, she's literally CC immune. She feels like she can go anywhere and everywhere all at once. Do we just ignore her during these upcoming fights, or is it best to still try to focus fire just a bit more effectively?
I think you have to try to focus Soka out. Maybe next up, but it's so hard to commit a dive onto a Hecate when the other backliner is still available. But as I say that, we just see Peso going down once again. A killing spree for Nexa, and the tier 2 is gone.
That wall's going to stall for a bit more time. Jungle trying to be a bit of a bungle here in the jungle. It's not going to quite work out well for you. Sokka takes down that tower. Sokka goes down, though. Hey, Chalk making it work. Got moves like a Jaguar. We're retreating back. Ymir moving a bit too slow like ice. Going to be cut down to size for it. Makes it 2-1 trade so far, but Moods still feeling a bit emboldened. They decide, again, we got what we came for. A couple kills, and those towers are gone. Let's go back where we're needed.
That is an absolute tragedy, D'Lo, and I say that we're getting another engagement. Coaster in a lot of trouble. He's gonna get melted. Dono picks that one up. World Weaver? No.
Unfortunate. The tragedy, you were saying. Enlighten me.
Absolute tragedy, right? Mink hit a 3-man freeze at the tail end of that fight, and all of his targets were low. There just wasn't any follow-up. There's no one in position to capitalize on that play. So all Employment LARPers really got out of this was the fact that they kept their Phoenix alive. They killed Soka and say, okay, he's not in the fight. He can't push our Phoenix. That's our small win here. And make no mistake, anytime you make trades in a fight when you're at a deficit, do get wins. This could be another one.
Already forcing the bees off the Neath. That sneeze not going to find any marks, my friend, as Bacchus going to go down once again for the rampage on this Susano. And now it's just going to be an Ice Ancient Fury that Amity has dropped to get a bit more health. Without that Spirit, no real hope to steal. No Sunders on board either, at the very least none in the pit. Another Enchilada gobbled up here by Moods.
Yeah, it really was just a quick thank you for the leash, my friends. Moods LFT push Employment LARPers away, get a nice kill, and just take the Fury for themselves. Things are going to be very difficult for Employment LARPers to defend against now. Tier 2s, forget about them. Those just don't exist on the map if you're Employment LARPers at this point. All about trying to hold on to your Phoenixes. Lose LFT, they've got bigger eyes on the prize. They want this Fire Giant. And the EL, they might just be here for it.
You got Sunders, you just got to use them at the right time is the hope. But Ymir's under that pressure from the stun, forcing the shards of ice. Ymir's going to go down before he can even use it. Rampage there for the Hecate. They go for the FG as well. No NPC is safe either. We're only going to do a bit of damage, not enough to save your shock. They go down to the God of Storms. Susano takes that kill. Moving forward, looking for more, but Employment LARPers have already tried to settle the score by leaving underneath that tier 2. No structure is safe for you, my friends. The Ancient Fury is down. Didn't you hear? Tier 2 is going to go down, and Moods just going to keep that pressure on moving. Down beneath this Phoenix. You have 3 members still standing strong from Employment LARPers, but that just looks like a nice juicy afterthought for them. The No Escape going to be pulling back in the Neath, gets the 2, and they're Dunsky for it. Only one left alive is Bacon, and we're looking hungry for that at the moment. Something on the side for a nice balanced breakfast. The open the gates is going to be answered by the sneeze, but that's more than a sneeze of damage. Ymir goes down just after spawning. Bacon can only watch in horror. The mood, victory, goes to LFT.
Moods LFT got to be feeling phenomenal after that one. 16-3, almost a full shutout. They were in such firm control of that game all the way through. And really, they didn't have to do a whole lot in the early game. They got a nice first blood. trade a couple kills back and forth. As the game went on, they simply kept playing their game for the stages they wanted to reach. And they just outscaled Employment LARPers so effectively. They did it with phenomenal macro play, good mechanics, and great team coordination. Everyone knew what they were doing and where they were focusing. And you can really see the game plan here, right? Let's get Peso, 1-7. Not because he's constantly jumping in and being out of position, but because Mood's LFT wanted to make sure this Bacchus couldn't do anything. And so in the early game, that was their focus. And what's the Bacchus to do once you reach mid to late, right? Not jump in, not try to peel for his team. He's the support. His options are limited, and they were limited further by death.
Yeah, 1-7 just doesn't feel like great. It's a time-tested tale. We've seen it before when Cowabunga executed it on Sherry. If you're going to pick this Bacchus, prepare for the early pressure you will face. They do not want to let the fat man get rolling, because once they do, you get run over. Instead, you drop down 7 times the fountain, no longer a threat. Meanwhile, Moods on this Amaterasu, 1-1-14.
Yup.
Damn, that's impressive.
Ama is just a really good character right now. Personally, I'd be banning her. I don't care about the Bacchus. I do not want to face this Ama because she simply does so much. Shield for your team, AoE stuns, damage mitigations, great mobility, makes you take more damage. She has so many tools, and if you're letting her scale up, it's going to reach a critical point. I'm actually surprised we didn't see like a soul to go with this, just because they both scale so extremely well, but obviously Soka did phenomenal. The Jingwei wasn't really needed.
Yeah, I gotta say the mobility. I was expecting it to be hampered more when we talked about the desk that Ymir's got this wall that can block their path. They were walking on air, man. It did not seem to actually hinder them whatsoever. So just really great play by Moods, always using those ultimates, not just to execute with damage, but also to reposition, to dodge that Spirit of the Nine Winds, to put themselves in the right place to continue to open up wounds to allow the team to do their damage too. So hey, Moods, excellent work. You're moving on. Employment LARPers, better luck next time. Get them resumes out once again. And that being said, we'll be right back in just a bit. Don't go anywhere. More Smite Prime action coming to you after the break.
Yeah. Love. Yeah. You must walk on water cause I'm drowning and you made it. Met you on the corner, first in love, it was payday. Candy colored nails, master candy coated bands. I needed your contact, my eyes bugging out my head. Cause you hot as shit, not just she African. Not no bottom, top notch shot it. Love me like I love myself, love it when she smile at me. White teeth with a heart of gold, and I'ma put a diamond in it. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ring like the camera is free, when she calling me. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ain't gon' be a man to pick you up, you stay down for me. Eyes closed, arms out, flying. Red Bull, babe, you give me wings, pilot. Girl, I love your voice, sound like love calling me. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. All around free in a nurse circumference. When she round me, she come first, and she quick. She say she feel my emotions when I just give thanks, can't believe we in the same bed. God do it best. Shout out to my angel, she a mess. Clean up when she stressed, never stressing me. Looky please, I'm the luckiest. Feel it in my chest. Treasure you, I swear you a diamond. Ring, 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 ring. Love calling me. Ring like the camera is free when she calling me. Ring, 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 ring. Love calling me. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet.
do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you come your way up. Do it on your own and you shit out of luck. Nobody will help if you're flying too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Cause you're gonna get burned. They say you should never roll all the dice without a hand. It's make or break when you never did stand a chance. Tell me, side, don't you tell us so how you actually feel. If you do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you come your way up. Do it on your own and you shit out of luck. Nobody will help if you're flying too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Smite Prime Time. This Friday night's looking sublime. It's Scrumptious versus Look Within. I'm D'Lo. This time joined by the vocal talents of Blaze McBain. We got Almighty Eyes in the Sky, Tess, and more watching us over, and Jithins is the man behind the curtain. Blaze, how we feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good because it's dry inside and there's just a lot of rain outside. So getting to watch some competitive Smite rather than being rained on just seems kind of good.
Dub.
But we'll see. We already got bans here. Got Odin and Fenrir taken away. The doggo has been put in the kennel. And honestly, I think that ban's good every single time we see it. Fenrir
Yeah.
is just really, really strong right now.
Bacchus gonna be Scrumptious' first pick out the gate, which you gotta imagine leaves that Amaterasu top lock as well, and indeed we will see it. We talked about it before. Spooky was praising this goddess's name, and for good reason. The mobility, the damage, the peel. She just does it all. But she isn't a Ymir, and that's why he's here.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be happy if you're getting these two picks just right off the top. You know what your front line's going to be. This leaves a little bit of a, spiciness if needed to go elsewhere on the map. But Amaterasu provides a ton for the team, gives power, gives speed, all those things you mentioned. The intellect build is just really, really good for her. And then Ymir, the walls, the freeze, the setup. Both gods can flex to either role as well. I expect we're going to see Ama in the solo, Ymir in the duo, but who knows? Maybe they switch it up a little bit. But we see Hecate and Sasano on the other side, and Sasano has been looking pretty good on the Smite prime times, where he just likes to delete people whenever we see him.
It's the same general idea as a Fenrir. It's incredibly mobile. It
Mm-hmm.
also provides incredibly great CC during a team fight. You
Yep.
can't go wrong with that. Neath, gonna be the lock here from Look Within. We're seeing similar aspects to what Employment LARPers brought, but this time with a bit of spice of their own. Tasty, that soul, gonna be added, and you have to imagine it's going to the duo.
Yeah, and I really like the Soul pick here. Soul, a ton of sustaining kit, just works out really, really well as an ADC. And having the Neath in the mid lane to where your ult doesn't have to travel all the way across the map is just a better option. We've seen what this Neath can do. Kneel down, take the sniper shot, tango wherever you are, and aim for fire and delete somebody, send them to the gray screen. But on this other side for Scrumptious, they lock in the Mordred, which we haven't seen a lot of on the Smite Prime streets as of late, and on her. And the last pick here for Look Within, Loki. But I'm really kind of curious about this Mordred and how it's going to pan out here, because I only think we maybe seen this 2 or 3 times over the past 4 weeks.
Streets are talking. Streets are saying the tables need to be broken, not just turned, and that is what Mordred's here to do. On her as well, here to disperse those who were sitting there prior. These are definitely some picks we have not gotten to see quite in the limelight. There's no Jing Wei on the table here, which is very uncommon, whether it be picked or banned. You got to imagine that they have something working around it. It's a nice leap over that wall. So, with that, let's leap right into the game. See how it works out for them. Scrumptious versus Look Within with this one. I don't know, comp for comp here, Blaze. How you feeling?
Well, I see a Loki for Look Within, and I just have to remind everybody that Loki had a really rough time last weekend.
He won at the end.
He won at the end, but someone lagged out, I don't
That's
know.
fair.
It could have been a win either way. I'm not going to discount that, but I want to keep an eye on Caddy on this Loki here because I really think this is a pinnacle pick to see how it gets played out. But I'm really excited to see the Mordred here in comp. His turning is like a bus, so you have to be able to hit the ult, or you're just running through walls like the Kool-Aid Man. Overall, I think those are the kind of 2 picks that we need to watch out for. We know what a lot of the rest of these do. Zapman on her, the tried and true. I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy out of the duo there. I'm watching the Loki.
Yeah, you gotta watch that Loki just to see if they can hold their own. Maybe instead of assassinating characters, you assassinate CPUs. It seemed to work out last time, so keep an eye on that ping. Make sure that your servers are all safe. Loki's coming for you. That being said, early game dynamics, first 5 minutes. Who do you think's got the edge?
Well, Look Within has 3 Sunders, and last week when you had 3 Sunders, it went pretty well for you early on, just because you were able to confirm either the invade or confirm your own buffs just to get that farm going and rolling in your favor. I think the first 5 minutes here should be relatively even. I'm curious to watch what's going to happen in the solo lane. I think Amaterasu has a little bit of a hard time in that first 5-7 minutes, and you're playing into Mordred with Bluestone, and that damage can kind of sneak up on you real fast. So watch maybe an early first blood in the solo lane.
Ymir could sneak up on you real fast too. Despite being a giant, watch out. This guy's got some surprisingly stealthy feet. As that man being chased away from their own jungle. Could be in trouble here as well. Bacchus in the meantime just kind of doing their own Bacchus shenanigans. And Zapman just being beaten down by a cudgel. Not too shabby a way to start. You trade out your buff for the wave. At the end of the day, who do you think wins out on that trade?
I mean, Zap's going to get the full wave, and so are they. It really comes down, can they confirm the invade here? Is Look Within going to be able to confirm the purple on the other side here? And they
Huzzah!
do, so it's kind of just an even trade. Overall, I'm not so sure it was worth it for either side, but now Look Within are going to be able to walk up to the blue buff, and they might even make a play for gold, and that could be a bit of a difference here in the early game if they're able to confirm both of those little side objectives. Blue buff already dropped for them.
So quick. And Loki just kind of showing a bit of vibes in this direction, manifesting that blue buff to go the way of Look Within, and hey, it does. That gold camp could be a useful way to answer back. Scrumptious do have the aggressive posturing, but Loki might be looking to punish that as they decide to take a stroll. Wrapped around, adorned by 2 belts. They're taking the long way around, really trying to make sure that no vision can call them out. Could be a bit dangerous here, given that we're all still level 2s, but it's not Scrumptious. Going to take a little bit of a trip here into the side alleys, but unfortunately, watch out. West Side Story, the gang snapping at you. Might be a few more strikes in the back, but on her will disperse to get back to safety. And here comes the counter rotation. Susano using that Storm Kata to cut down Soul's health bar to size. No kills on either side quite just yet, though. Look Within just going to go back to lick their wounds.
Yeah, and I like the play here by Gon on the Susano. Just shows up a little bit late, but also just completely dissolves the fight and says, hey, you don't want to be here any longer because you don't really want to give me first blood. We've seen what a Susano kind of spiral out of control when that happens, but I really like what we saw there. I mean, the wraparound by Katie there on the wraparound on Zapman forces out a relic. That's right, Zapman relic there. Did not take the death, used the relic, love to see it, and it was just a nice play overall. You get a relic out of that, I think that's just as useful. I think that is a win on the side of Look Within.
Yeah. It's going to be down for an immense amount of time. So you got to imagine that comm's locked and we're saying, hey, gank them again. Let's make that same magic happen. Hopefully, different result. Here in this solo lane. What's going to be the result of this matchup? Amaterasu, of course, not known for her laning pizzazz, but this is a different Ama we're talking about. Does she have the favorable matchup against this Mordred?
Not early on. We saw that, Alfie's had to play a little bit back under the tower early on here in this game. I expect the next probably 3 or 4 minutes are going to be about the same. I mean, the Mordred just offers so much damage with the Bluestone that it just sneaks up on you. You're like, oh, I can fight, and then all of a sudden you're dead. And you're like, wait a minute. Like, how did I end up here? And you're checking the damage chart, and you're like, oh, that's a lot of damage. But now we see a blue buff invade going out, and this could be a move to try to get Haddix.
They have the Neathult on lock, but they're doing circles. Can you hit them through the donuts? You can't hit that Pursue the Weak. Does not matter. Severing Strike and to sever the head off of Caddy's shoulders for that first blood. Amaterasu now having to be pursued to the ends of the earth. They do get that level 5 at the last moment, means that pursuit has to end at a certain point. At the very least, though, we'll grab ourselves a nice blue buff on top.
And I think that fight does go differently if you have the ultimates for Look Within there. We saw the Neathult come in, but as soon as Haddix went into a School Bunch transformation, I'm going to do donuts around you and be distracted, they didn't know what to do because they didn't have ultimates to counter with of their own, and it allowed Scrumptious to pick up the first kill of the game there and extend their lead a little bit. It is a slight lead at the moment, 1,300 gold, nothing to write home about, but sometimes we've seen these teams start off with what looks like it's going to be a little bit, and about 5 minutes from now, it's a lot of bit. So looking for Look Within to take a moment, catch a breath, and say, okay, that didn't work out well. What do we need to do from here? How could we have executed that a bit better?
They have to figure that out quickly because that Gold Fury is going to come up, and we've talked about it in every single game we've seen high-level players in action, and we certainly have some here. Gold Fury is where you really make a name for yourself. You start to get those global buffs online. You start to set the pace, and with 3 Sunders, you need to show some face. Do we expect Look Within, from their position being a bit behind, about 2,000 gold, to be the first ones to the objective, or should they play this one a bit more passively, wait for the counterpunch?
I think the only way they step up to this objective first is if they get a pick. And it has to be a pick, I think, either on Zap or on Shinto. I think you have to get one of those two. And Shinto
about a pick on
walking
your
away with the
Loki?
kill there. He made him disappear. That was pretty crazy. Loki is good at doing that. Not the way you
Mind
want to
freak.
disappear. So unfortunate on that note. But I do think Look Within, they have to get a pick here in order to set up the Gold Fury. I think really they're going to probably have to play reactive a little bit. And honestly, that's not something you want to be doing at this point in the game.
I mean, they got a pick. They just got it off their own side. So they half followed your instructions. Hopefully next time around they'll listen a bit more carefully. That being said, about 5 minutes here. 2-0. Some damage rain down the Bacchus. Could make another, but they're going to be just fine for now. And about a 2,000 gold lead without any big objectives being tackled quite just yet. You don't have that Kukulkan, so you don't have to worry about that huge objective secure. You do still have 3 Sunders, though. But we saw in that first round, Blaze, sometimes Sunders are just a bit more blunder.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful. Pre-level 10, you just kind of, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm going to be able to kill it. And then you realize, like, it did 430 damage and not, whatever you expected to happen. So, something to watch out for. Haddix does pick up a kill there in the solo side along with Gon. So, a nice little gank over on the Amaterasu, which, again, this is the struggle point for Ama. We need to make it 10, 12-ish minutes in. Ama should be feeling better at that point with itemization, but they keep Alfie behind. It's going to be a problem here. Gold Fury should be on the menu for Scrumptious, I would imagine sooner rather than later, as a gank on Alfie is coming behind the Tier 1 tower.
Looking for the Ymir instead. Not too many calories in ice, so I've got to wonder about the nutritional value they're getting from that, but nonetheless, a kill will fall. Brennan goes down to wrong use Meat Club. Could be some damage rain down the Bacchus now afterwards. They do not have that floppage pocket. The Sunder's expended on their head, and the Supernova ensures they die in firework flourish fashion. Honor in a bit of trouble. They're blocked by that clone, taken out there by Zaylin. Nice double kill there for the Soul. A good answer back here from Look Within.
Yeah, I love it, okay? On the other side of the map, in solo side, you lost a fight really easily. It looked like they might even try to pick up another kill as Alfie respawned. But on the duo side, you make some moves. They go ahead and they lose Brendan early, but they capitalize off that as Haddix just gets another kill on Alfie there. That sneaky, sneaky damage. But then they turn it around. After Brennan gets, caught in a bit of a pickle against Zapman, they get Zapman and Rongu. That feels really good for your duo, and I think right now you're going to have to play through that duo lane rather than anywhere else on the map.
Yeah, looking at Soul to start heating up. You got 2 of the kills in the pocket of the person you want. Utilize that. Burn down the objectives once we get a free pick. At this point, odds are now evened up. Ymir's just trying to put on them gank shenanigans onto that purple buff. First objective on the marks actually be this Queen Naga, and Sasano and Mordred with their damage alone, they've got the swords to just cut this thing down to size, make some snakeskin boots for you. Amaterasu can't do much about it, and this is kind of the interesting dichotomy between a solo Amaterasu and a support one. She can't really rotate. She's kind of confined to her own lane. Loki has no such shackles. Going to be looking for a potential gank here to continue to enable that dual lane, looking for that move onto the on her. Disperse instantly going to follow, but the assassinate right after. The Neath ult too. Some decent damage for the backside. The Supernova right on top. They're diving for it. They really want this kill, Zaylin. How badly do you want it? Zapman zaps him right back, takes that kill away, looking for the double, won't find it. DBZ trade there. Katie goes down in exchange for the life of the Lion. Unfortunately, Ymir might not be able to escape unscathed. Some nice shards of ice as a little bit of a token gift before they part to the dearly departed afterlife. Overall, 1 for 3 trade here. Scrumptious, feeling good.
I really thought this was going to be one of those situations where they walk in and Look Within's just like, next time in the duo lane. But no, unfortunately, they full commit to a tower dive there, and it just doesn't go their way. It looks like it's going to be a good gank from Loki. You get a relic. It's like, okay, we can make a play here. Here comes the Neath Orbital Strike. You're like, okay, Briz, we love seeing it. We're going to get this kill. And unfortunately, you just can't land the full Soul Ultimate for Zaylin here. And that's really what kept Zapman alive and messed up the whole entire dive. If that all connects, Zapman dies, you're not committed to that, you don't lose everybody. You might lose one on the rotation and by Gon, but Gon did this really cool trick where he trades out the N with an E and he said everybody's now gone. So, unfortunate.
Smite players, not necessarily known for their literacy here, but Gon's going to teach you. Don't dive me. I'll give you a spelling lesson real quick and a lesson in player damage numbers. Let's take a look at the numbers here. 10 minutes. 8-3. After that Gold Fury Scrumptious got off the back of that fight, they now stand with a nice 5,000 lead. We'll take it. Look Within They got 3 Sunders and a Dream. Haven't gotten to quite see them be used other than for damage on top of the Bacchus' head. You might need that damage in a second. Zapman gonna have to leap over the wall just as soon as that Neath ult hits. Man, what a Tom Cruise move there. They're gonna go back in though. They want seconds. They like the danger. Some nice Distance Fury. They're gonna show that anger on top of Zalen's head. Shards of Ice charging once again. Not gonna be an issue. Zalen taken off here by Rongyu. Approaching, though, from the teleporter, Amaterasu, you've called a warrior, and a warrior answers the call. Zapman falls beneath their blade. Loki making an entrance as well, but Susano's here to the bit first. Typhoon going to sweep up Ymir before a nice little rocket jump gives him a bit more space. Brendan's turned the nuts and bolts. Gon's here to try to ward off the Loki, but unfortunately, Amaterasu trying to get that last sliver. Not going to succeed on the Bacchus until Briz makes the rotation. Gates have been open. Will it shut the Book of Life on Susano's head? One more bit of damage onto Katie instead. Hikate's looking low. Alfie trying to trade out. Briz goes down somehow. Where did you come from, Mordred? Alfie not going to be able to answer that question. They are going to fall beneath Susano's blade as well for the double. What a massacre here in the duo.
I don't know why we just had to have the arena map congested into the side lane of duo, but it looked like Look Within came in with the plan. Now, I do have to elaborate on the plan. The idea of let's orbital strike down Zapman, it's a good idea, and I understand it. But we've not only done it once, we've not only done it twice, we're now at 3 times, and you're talking about Scrumptious. They're gonna pick up on this idea. You have to vary it a little bit. I enjoy the commitment. I enjoy the fact that not only do they commit to it, yes, they lost one, but they turn around, and as they funnel in, they turn this fight around, and it ends up being a pretty good trade overall. They lose the fight. That's nothing, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about that by Look Within. But it shows that they have the ability to keep up some sort of fight with Scrumptious. I would like to be a 5v5 instead of so disconjointed. The disconjointed fights seem to be catching them off guard.
Shinto caught off guard there by a rogue arrow from Briz. Katie says, all part of the plan. Backs away to base, happy to have a kill they don't trade a life for, and just as I say, come on, Alfie! At least it wasn't part of that engagement, so the fact still holds true, but Alfie will fall beneath Susano's blade. Just trying to get gains wherever they can. Scrumptious are scrappy, and any single time that Look Within seem to make any stride forward, they're knocked back 2 paces. Look at the positioning here from Scrumptious, slowly tightening the noose around this Tier 1 tower. It's the embargo around the poor Ymir. What can they do as Mordred and On Her both circle? Might be a nice little rogue engagement here between the 2 carries in this jungle, but it seems that so far Scrumptious content to just leave the farm where it lay. They don't want to force the issue too much.
Yeah, and Scrumptious here, I like what they did. They showed pressure to see if anybody was going to step up and just get caught off guard, because it's going to open up the objectives that are coming up. We have Gold Fury spawning, we have Pyro spawning, and shortly after that, we have Fire spawning. There is going to be a variety of things to go take here for Scrumptious if they continue to build this snowball. Now to 8,000 gold lead. 3 minutes ago was at 5K. I think we kind of get the point of what's happening. Look Within have to find a way to group up and take the fight to Scrumptious. They need the farm still, but the grouping here by Scrumptious has just been really, really well done. Look Within, I think, have to find a way to slow it down, but it's so hard to do at this point in the game.
And might be this point where we see another team fight drop and open the gates. Gonna find one target, brings him back in the midst of 4. Brendan turned into Ice Shards once again at the hands of Scrumptious, and now this Gold Fury gonna be meeting the same fate unless Soul can do much about it. She just disapparates from the entire area, says, I want no part of this. You can't blame them for it. Scrumptious have been on top from the beginning. Second Fury in their pockets.
Yeah, and the second Fury, it's empowering minions. It feels really good to have. I don't know that after you already have someone down that you want to commit to stealing it. Because at this point, you're 14 minutes into the game. They have a pretty hefty gold lead, 10,000 gold now. And if you sacrifice there, they get so much more. Pyro spawning within the next 15 seconds. Haddix gets a kill onto Briz there and just kind of dives in. Pyro's also spawning. Scrumptious are looking for a way to run this down.
Trying to run down Haddix moment. Hey, they're 5-0. Could be a really good kill to your side. But Haddix almost taunting them, saying, please, I beg you to come for me. I have 2 swords waiting to meet you. Tower's going to fall in both sides here, but not too big of an issue just yet. No kills to follow. Pyromancer It's going to be what Scrumptious look for. Just going to continue that objective domination, and that's just going to further aid their siege potential.
Yeah, I mean, you're really excited about this because not only you have the Pyro Bomb that's going to go and destroy an objective, or not an objective, but most a tower, a Phoenix, whatever you need it for. I mean, it could get you a kill for, depending on how you want to use it. But I'm looking at that and I go, did they need it? No. Is it good for them to have? Absolutely. They are looking for a way to put this game to rest sooner rather than later. And right now, Alfie looks to be on the menu here for Scrumptious, but maybe Haddix could be walking into a little bit of a trap here. We'll have to find out here in just a second.
Haddix trying to put Alfie to rest. You see the way he just said, all right, we're fighting now. Pursue the weaken and clank against that ultimate. Now 1v3. Trying to do as much damage to Katie as possible. Might just succeed in that effort. You're going 1v3 in the tier 2 tower? Okay, buddy. Didn't realize you had a game like that. The damage is raining down, but it's not going to be enough. Haddix gets shut down by Alfie.
I mean, finally. He was running it down there for a minute. Oh, another fight breaks out. Zapman takes the spill against Zaleen here.
Uh-oh, Susano's going to follow it up, though, with some nice winds of change. That means that fight will not go your way. The candle gets blown out, and Zaylin gets blown away.
Look, I appreciate the 1v1 there that happened. I don't know what happened beforehand, but it looked like it was a 1v1, and Zaylin comes out on top. You take that dub. That's a confidence booster. If you are Zaylin, you're like, you know what? Feels good. Moving on. Yeah, Gon comes over, tells you bye-bye, but you know what? You take that dub. You take that for the time being. And it looks like Look Within are going to take this as a moment to run to the Fire Giant and try to make a case for taking it.
They have 3 Sunders. You gotta make sure to put him to good use. Hekate's on the scene, drops some decent damage. Briz manages to take it away. They don't even have a Sunder. Brennan Bulls doesn't have a life afterwards. Hekate finds the damage, gets the double onto Katie. That's 2 members without that FG wrapped around their waist. So at the very least, Look Within get the objective, but they don't get the better end of the fight.
I mean, I think you're kind of happy if you got fire if you're Look Within. It's a good amount of gold. It gives you the buff. Yeah, you lost some on the back end, but you denied it from Scrumptious. Not that Scrumptious necessarily needed it, but it oh, nice backflip.
Unfortunately, a nicer Storm Kata to meet them where you're landing. It says, hey, is this your LZ? You mind if I stop by? And he says, please go away. Oh, Shinto might need to go away quick. That dazzling offensive is certainly bright. Shinto shut down there by Alfie, and now it's some potential fratricide here. Sister versus brother. Zapman gonna interrupt the family fiasco. Says, can't we all just get along? Amaterasu does not abide by that, trying to cut the head off the snake, cut off the escape path here of Susano. Zapman, in the meantime, duking it out with the Ymir. Does Gon be able to get away from this? They're not gone quite just yet, or at least not in the way they want to be. Trying to play ring around the rosy. Ymir wants to assist. He loves these games. Susano's not quite as big of a fan. Trying to escape to that teleporter, but the glorious charge gonna pursue him to Kingdom Come. Haddix, meanwhile, on his Survivor Minecraft server in the right side, manages to grab that tower of the tier 2 variety. Susano finds his end most dishonorably at the hands of the Chaos Tower.
I mean, look, it's a big brain move. You don't want to offer up the gold for the kill. You don't want to give it to him. You go, you know what I'm going to go do? I'm going to go die this tower real quick, guys. But this opens up an opportunity for Look Within to look at this Gold Fury. I don't know if Wronggoose are going to let that happen, but they do have Sunders galore. So we'll have to see how this plays out in this next fight.
They still have him on tap is the question. They got a Gates opening up, bringing one in, bringing Katie down is Shinto. That damage is too much to handle. Ymir, gotta agree. Double kill there for the Hekate. Opens up this Fury without an issue. Look Within. All that fire, none of the flame, none of the desire to grab this objective. A third Fury goes down for Scrumptious.
Yeah, and this is what you wanted to prevent if you're Look Within. You're like, I don't want Scrumptious to get this Gold Fury because then they have the 3. And the 3 is when things start feeling kind of bad because now they have all the buffs in their favor. They're going to be walking out of the base faster. They have the minions. They have, the extra structure. They have everything they want and more because now the next Gold Fury is going to be disabling all the objectives. It's gonna feel bad for Look Within, and Scrumptious just make it look easy there. They say, okay, you're gonna pull it. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get a pick. We're gonna get another pick, and that's just what they've been doing so successfully. Now, Look Within had put up a great fight thus far, but we still haven't really got to see a full 5-on-5 that often. Right there, it looked like they were all gonna group as 5. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, no, that's not really the case. They're going to get a pick and before it even gets to happen. So the gold lead is playing dividends here for Scrumptious, and they plan on, probably starting to look at this left side Phoenix, I have to imagine. Maybe the mid as well. Mid tier 2 is still there. But overall, I do like what we're seeing from Look Within, but they just haven't been able to put all the pieces together for that puzzle.
Look at where the pieces lie here. It's 20 minutes, 22 to 10. Scrumptious with the favor, and also with a very sizable 14,000 gold lead. Get your money up, not your funny up. And you see them, like you said, just looking for these aggressive picks. They almost tried to catch Neath out at that back right side teleporter. Didn't quite get the snag up. So at the very least, you have this 5v5 team fight that we haven't gotten to see quite just yet. But the question is, where does Loki fit in that? It's a hard situation for Katie to fit themselves into. 1 and 6, definitely not the bestly itemized of the crew. What's Loki's role when everyone's grouped up?
I mean, this is the problem with Loki, and this is the problem we've seen with Loki specifically in comp. He does great in ranked, he does great in casuals. In ranked, he does struggle from time, or sorry, in comp, he does struggle from time to time, for the strict fact of he is so single target. When you get to a team fight, you have to force someone to step out, hopefully a carry, so he can go in and take them down. But that hasn't happened. Scrumptious is staying grouped up when they get to that stage, so if he's going to commit to going in, they're going to churn and burn the Loki as they should.
And that just means that Look Within have got to try to bail them out, which potentially costs them more kills. And even if it's the ideal situation where they do get something, you're probably losing Katie off the back end, as we've seen 6 times prior. Might be losing Alfie here as well. That dazzling offensive being used defensively, not how you want to see it. A wall separates the fight, but unfortunately, I've been seeing that head get separated from its shoulders in just a moment. Spell Eater, not going to be necessary. Desert's Fury finds the back of Amaterasu. Now they're going aggressive. Ymir is here. Unfortunately, might be here to stay in the grayscale just a moment. Too immobile. That rocket jump won't save you. Haddix slices them to pieces. 2 kills off the bat already. Look Within, having to look within and reflect to see how they can defend against this force of 5. Find out quick as Haddix is looking for that heart slash. Going to be quickly evaded there by that Loki. Does not want any issue here. They don't want any issue with the bird either. Scrumptious looking for the kills. They take off Briz. That's a whiz. Easy peasy as this right side bird is burned away. Scrumptious now feeling emboldened to step within the throne room. The Titan says, you dare challenge me. Scrumptious say, you're just an afterthought. You're just an hors d'oeuvre. We're here for the finals. And Look Within can do nothing about it but watch in horror. The disperses, the leaps, the basics, the damage. Shinto gets the kill on Katie just as a nice little reminder of their power. Scrumptious take the game.
I mean, Scrumptious has come through there, and they catch out Alfie in the jungle, and it's pretty much wraps from there. And it's what they've been doing all game. They've been finding their picks very carefully, and then at that point, they're like, cool, we have the lead. All the towers are down. If we just get the Phoenix, it's over, right? Like, we've killed 2, and they hit him with the good old Candy Crush deliciousness, because everything has to be Scrumptious, and it's the good old delicious as they run it down. I do like what we saw from Look Within here. I thought they looked good. They had sparks. They just weren't able to sit and get grouped up and put it all together. There were some issues around the fights. The comp seemed like it was going to be good at first. The Loki just hasn't been able to do it. We have not seen it consistently perform well and win games. Not to take anything away from Katie here. I really, I thought there were some really good ganks. I thought there were some really good plays over in duo. But once you get to that team fight phase, it is really, really difficult to pull off the rest. On the other side, though, you have to highlight Shinto and Haddix here, 7-2 and 6, 6-1 and 4, and then Gone here on the Sasano, 8-2 and 9, all looking really, really good here. Overall, Scrumptious going to continue to go their way to the semifinals and hopefully work their way to the finals tonight.
To continue the fire analogy, we did see sparks. Zaylin, especially with those 2 kills in the dual lane, but they didn't have the kindling. They couldn't keep up that momentum, unfortunately, so that means your fire is stamped out, but hopefully those Embers of Revolt will come back in a future Smite Prime, but today will not be that day. Scrumptious move on, and we'll be moving on in just a second, so don't you dare go anywhere. Semifinals of Smite Prime coming at you after the break.
Yeah. Love. Yeah. You must must walk on water cause I'm drowning and you made it. Met you on the corner, first in love, it was payday. Candy colored nails, match the candy coated bands. I needed your contact, my eyes bugging out my head. Cause you hot as shit, nah, just she African. Not no bottom, top notch out here. Love me like I love myself, love it when she smile at me. White teeth with a heart of gold, and I'ma put a diamond in it. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ring like the camera is free when she calling me. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ain't gon' be a man to pick you up, you stay down for me. Eyes closed, arms out, flying. Red Bull, babe, you give me wings, pilot. Girl, I love your voice, sound like love calling it. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. All around free in a nurse circumference. When she round me, she come first, and she quick. She say she feel my emotions when I hit her. I just give thanks, can't believe we in the same bed. God do it best, shout out to my angel, she a mess. Clean up when she stressed, never stressing me. Looky please, I'm the luckiest, feel it in my chest. Treasure you, I swear you a diamond. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ring like the camera is free when she calling me. Ring, 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 love calling me. Love call again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love call again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love call again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a
Nothing in the world could ever be good again. I've been nothing but a girl who really should be nothing less. Don't mess up, and don't you tell us so how you actually feel. If you do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you climb your way up. Do it on your own and you shit out of luck. Nobody will help if you find too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Cause you're gonna get burned. They say you should never roll all the dice without a hand. It's make or break when you never did stand a chance. Don't mess up, don't you tell us so how you actually feel. If you do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you climb your way up. Do it on your own when you shit out of luck. Nobody will help if you find too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned.
Welcome back, everybody, to our semifinals matchup. We have Kaiju, we have PPP here, and with us on the cast, you have me, Blaze McBain, you have Spooky Mars here, and you are followed around in the sky with Tess, Big Money Mort, and Jithin's running on the admin side. Spooky, what do you think we're going to see banned here between PPP and Kaiju based off what we've seen tonight?
I mean, my first thought is get the Jingwei out of here. That thing has been really obnoxious. Oh, wow. I can't believe I called it so quickly. That's actually incredible. There's so many actually good bands right now. You can get rid of the Jingwei, you can get rid of Soul, you can get rid of Sano, you can get rid of Bacchus, you can get rid of Amaterasu. Those, in my opinions, are the biggest ones. Hakate has been very prevalent through the meta so far, but she hasn't really been focused for bans simply because she is someone that you can focus down a little bit more. This Fenrir has been a little bit more popular tonight specifically, and I have to wonder if that's because of the compositions that some of these teams are looking for. We've seen a few less CC immune ults coming through tonight, and I'm thinking that maybe Kaiju is looking at some of those picks themselves. Maybe they're looking to pick up a Neath. Maybe they're wanting a Kukulkan. And so they're trying to facilitate their team by removing this big get out of here ultimate that Fenrir has.
Yeah, and I think Fenrir's just annoying. Like, he's one of those
He
gods, he
is.
comes in and does, like, a very good amount of damage early. He gets some lifesteal online, and then you're like, "Oh, I can kill him." And then you're like, "Wait a minute, he's healing up. Oh, maybe I can't." And then it's just a bad time for you. But you mentioned seeing Jingwei and Soul Band. We haven't really got to see that yet, but I would almost love to see it because it would put the carries in a precarious situation.
I get
So
it.
maybe that's something we see a little bit later tonight. But for now, we're going to see an Odin pickup here. And the Cage has been playing dividends in comp. And I really, really like the Odin in comp, but outside of comp, I don't really think Odin's that great. So I'm excited to see how PPP handles this here, picking up the Odin with their first pick.
I really like this Odin pick, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? He's been very prevalent in comp so far. And it's because he just creates so much disruption. His lane phase is kind of whatever. He's not going to be a lane bully. He can be if you get ahead, make no mistake, but he's not really known for it. Amaterasu has a pretty decent matchup into him, able to silence him out and stop him from unleashing the bird bomb combo. The silence stops him from jumping right away. Some damage comes out, makes that shield a lot less effective. I really like this pick into it. What it doesn't do is actually stop him from being a problem in the late game. You have to put him very far behind for that cage to start being irrelevant. And even if you do so, he's still got 4 other people in the team that can capitalize on it.
And I'm curious to see if Kaiju end up going this idea. Last week when we saw carries that were versing Odin pick up Shell so they could get out of the cage since they didn't have leaps. And I wonder if that's a route we see here. But one thing I do think it's to take note of is Amaterasu does struggle in the early game, and Odin's not really that great early either. So maybe this works out if both of these gods are going to the solo lane to provide a pretty decent fight for both solo laners over there without feeling an immense pressure, unless it's coming from the jungle. But now we see the Ymir picked up. I think this is really good for Kaiju because if you let Odin Ymir be together, that has proven to be a rough time just between the walls that you have to be able to get
Yeah.
through here. But we do see the Hecate pick you mentioned earlier is a great use with the Odin. They want to leave the cage, you bring them back in. And this leads us with, what do you think the next pick's going to be here? Do you think they go carry or do you think they go for another tank role?
I'd really prefer to see them go another tank role, or maybe even their jungler. Susano is still open. And personally, I would, if they're looking for Susano, they should pick it here before we get into the next round of bans, where Kaiju has a chance to take that away. Granted, you don't see what targets your jungler is going to be going on just yet, and for that reason, PPP might choose to wait a little bit, maybe just choose their support. That's going to be the Susano.
Yeah, we love to see it. Honestly, I think you had to take this. I agree. The Sasano has to come through here if you're taking it because it's definitely off the table the next round of picks.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's any way you let it through because both of these setups for their comps really cater to Sasano's playstyle. Odin locking people down, Hecate bringing people back, and you're like, oh well, what does Sasano do well? He blows people up and he has really good CC to set those things up. So I think he worked on both comps here. He works great with Alma and Ymir as well. But this leaves Kaiju in this position of, okay, we need our carries. Soul's still on the table. I think Soul's probably the best ADC
Agreed.
beyond Jingwei. So I think that has to be taken here if that's something you're looking for. But in the jungle is where things might get a little bit spicy. I would love not to see a Loki here. Do you think there's a better option than the Loki from what we've seen thus far tonight?
I mean, in comp, I think most things are better than Loki. I like the Soul being picked up right here. Much to your point, Soul does very good. When it comes to the jungle specifically, even doing something like tank jungler, Athena is something you can run. I've seen it run. I quite like it. We haven't really seen a whole lot of it in comp so far in Smite 2 here. But I think it's a little bit undervalued. I like it a lot more than I like something like the Loki. The Bacchus being picked up here as well. And this could even be a Ymir jungle or a Bacchus jungle. The fact is, Smite 2 is so flexible with the gods that are in it right now. You can look at this entire 4-man comp right now, and pretty much the only thing you've got is that, yeah, this Soul, she's probably going to be an ADC, but what if we put her in mid, right? There's always that
Yeah.
little question there.
You know what I find interesting is like I really like the Nuwa pick, and we haven't seen it that often, like since it's come out. I don't even I see it when I play casuals or when I play ranked, but I wonder when that will start to get its value in comp. The Kernanos is what's picked up here for PPP, and we saw this build kind of pop off going intellect in the way of Kernanos last weekend, and it's been the kind of the hot pick in ranked as far as that goes, along with the Bologna is going to be the other side of the coin here. Does you think that makes the Odin going into support?
Absolutely. I think this Odin has to be support here, and I quite like that switch up. I don't think he has a very good matchup into any of the potential solo laners that Kaiju currently has. Ymir freezes him out of his stun. Ama silences him out of his stun and his bird bomb combo. Bacchus kind of does the same thing, has the belch. It's probably the best matchup, but why bother with it? Just put him in the support role and make sure your Kurnos gets online, because the ultimates that they now have in the dual lane are very strong together. You pretty much have to look for a shell to get out of that Odin cage. Otherwise, you're guaranteed getting hit with the Wild Hunt, and there's a lot of damage going to be followed up on it.
Yeah, and I think what I like here about PPP, and anytime I see these Odin pickups, is okay, we have the cage. Cool. What other giant AoEs can we pick up real quick? But we also have good single target burst damage.
Yep.
And Hecate, Sasano, Kernanos, Bologna all bring that to the table. It's a really solid comp. They all have AoEs for ultimates, and then they all do good single target damage. So I think they came in with a plan. Can they execute it? We'll have to find out. On the other side, Kaiju, looking at their comp, I think this is going to be Amaterasu Jungle, Spooky. That is my pick
Yeah.
for the Ama right now. I think it just fits considering what has been picked up here. I like the flex potential in their comp. And, you know, as we head in to this game, who do you think has a chance to take it over the other? Is it going to be PPP going to the finals, or is it going to be Kaiju?
I think both of these drafts are very strong. I think the longer this goes on, Kaiju tends to have a little bit more of an advantage. Jacob on this Soul just scales really well. And I've already talked tonight about how well Amaterasu does in the late game. And if you're right, and this is in fact the jungle Ama, she can afford to build a little bit more damage. She can really do some numbers. The damage mitigation scaling from the Reflect makes her very tanky without necessarily having to invest into a bunch of tank items. Still definitely wants them. It gives you a lot more flexibility in the paths you can go down. We already see 2 shells getting picked up here. Kaiju not looking to play PPP's game in the cages here. On the other side, Kronos can do a lot of damage, but I think he takes longer to get online than the Soul does. I do think Kaiju have an advantage in this early game.
Yeah, I really like the Soul pickup here. I think Soul's gonna feel good. I don't project having problems for the Soul, whether it's against the Hecate or against the Kernanos. I don't
No.
think it matters which of those 2 picks you're going against. I think it feels good on either side if you're Jacob. You're like, I feel good about this. You're like, I
Yeah.
am excited. So Overall, I think that was a solid pick there in the third slot for Kaiju. And then the rest of this comp, it looks like it is going to be Amaterasu jungle. And I am excited to see that because that means we're getting Ymir in the solo lane. And that is going to be a fun matchup, which will be, it's going to be the Odin over there in the solo side. We talked about, hopefully it's going to go support. How do you feel about Bologna being in the support?
Not as good, if I'm being completely honest. It has potential, right? She has the disarm. She can set up some favorable trades for Golden on the Kernernos here. But I'm not quite as big on it as I would have been on the Odin, simply because it feels like she has less utility. And yeah, you do have the Eagles rally. You can jump in, land on someone's head, and drop the Wild Hunt on top of it. But it feels more technical than just dropping a big loading cage and saying, hey, we're fighting in here, there's an ultimate coming down, and you're just gonna have to deal with that. It requires a little bit more setup, and I think it's a little bit more jungle reliant than just putting the Odin over here would be.
I agree. I mean, that's the one thing I like about bringing Odin over to duo. It's like, you will fight us now. And there's nothing you can really do about it unless you pop the shell. So I'm curious to see how that duo lane pans out. But the Amaterasu jungle, not something we've gotten to really see. And I do agree. I think the scaling for Ama, if you can get this going online, I mean, it's going to feel really, really good and transition to the late game very well. Maybe a little bit even easier than it would in support or solo. But this leads us with the matchup that's left over in the solo lane. You have Ymir, you have Odin. Who do you think comes out on top of that matchup?
Ymir. It's
Ymir?
It's Ymir. Odin does not have a good time in this matchup. If he tries to go for anything, hang on, Yarkor coming in.
Yeah, Yarkor over here on the Sasano come back, says, hey, let me tell you a story how I'm going to pull you back in, and we're going to get a double kill over in the dual lane very quickly there. A nice early rotation from Yarkor.
Very well timed there. I really like seeing the aggression come out, and I think that's one thing we haven't touched on quite as much. We're going to go back to the solo lane in a minute here. The PvP simply have a lot more agency in the jungle right now on account of having the Sasano. Yes, the Ama has some options and she can scale very well, but as we've noted in picks and bans when we thought she might be solo, she doesn't have the strongest early game. She's not super active in the early stages of the game, whereas Sasano loves being active early. Look, he's on the right side of the map and he just picked up a kill on the port degree over there. 3 kills on the board, and they're all facilitated by Yarkor on this Sasana right now. This is where PvP is going to find their stride, and they've got to keep it going. Kaiju has to find a way to stop this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Amaterasu takes time to ramp up. It has to be facilitated by the rest of the team. Sasano is going to run at you, doesn't need the ramp up because he's helping the rest of his team ramp up with the ganks. It's a bit of a different play style, but it's something to watch out for as now we get to see that Anxious is on the way back in on the Bologna. Can they make something happen in the dual lane? And it looks like no. It's just going to be a good bit of farm for the time being, but this leads us into this conversation, Spooky. How do you slow down Yarkor beyond just warding?
Warding, I know you said beyond it, so safe positioning. It's making sure you're not extending too far, right? You have this aggressive dual lane that wants to fight, but you have to be able to show some restraint. Portigree gets he down on the right side of the map, and Yarkor gonna be full health here for now. And that's pretty much all you could do. Try to match Yarkor, whether it's on the same side and making these trades even for your team, or just going to the opposite side. I don't like the opposite rotations quite as much for the Ama, simply because she's a little bit weaker in the early game. I think it's far more beneficial to be near your team and try to set up some combo plays, because that's really where the Ama shines her best.
And I like this kind of play by Anxiousness. Is like, hey, I'm going to be a rotating support on the Bologna. And this kind of gives this viability of almost having this second type of jungle character in your game. Bologna gets the war flag, so you're going to give that attack speed out. Bologna loves attack speed. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like Berserkers, Shoguns for her later on. I would imagine those are items that she likes. But do you think this is the right move to have the Bologna rotating around as a second jungle, or is it better for her to stay in the duo lane and try to, facilitate a bout a little bit?
Look, man, if you're going to play Bologna support, I would like to see it leave the duo lane and start making some rounds and try to bring that aggression to other parts of the map. You're not playing Bologna because you think she peels super well for her team. You're playing Bologna because you want to brawl and you think you have a team that can facilitate that and she can set it up and thrive in that situation. You want to do as much fighting as possible, and Anxious is going to fight some more.
Ooh, and Anxious actually gets a great
man.
rally there. They might be able to find Port Degree. They're going to dive the tower. They get a Gold Fury on the other side of the map for Kaiju, but PPP doesn't care. They're going to run it down the solo lane and say, guess what? We're going to get a kill. We're also going to proxy a wave so we can get a little bit more pressure on this tower. Go ahead, take the Gold Fury, have it this time around. We'll enjoy our gold lead while we're here. And I like this play by Kaiju because this shows, hey, we might not be winning the fight over there, but we know we have pressure over here at the Gold Fury. We can make a move. Now, Yarkor making a way in again. We get to see the ultimate out of Amma there trying to peel, but it might not be enough, and it won't be. Sweet, says Yarkor, as the dive into that tower secures another kill for PPP here, and they have to find a way to slow down this Asano.
You know, that's the thing about Bokuto Amaterasu. When the mirror is active and you're reflecting damage, oh, it feels great. Has so many mitigations. As soon as that ends, oh boy, I'm really squishy. And we saw that put into practice. So he's simply eviscerated by the combined efforts of PPP. And it's something they've got to be aware of. We saw the Dazzling Defensive come out, didn't find much value. It was pretty much a defensive zoning ult. Anxious, be chased around the jungle, but frankly, I'm not even sure that they find much value in chasing this Bologna because look at Jacob. He's forced on the tower. He can't even try to join this.
Well, it's not only that. Like, you're walking into PPP. They are over here on the left-hand side. This could be a dangerous route to chase, and they will back off here. Kaiju said, okay, let's just remain in our jungle. Let's not overstep our bounds. But they're toying with the idea of maybe stepping up. And that's a dangerous thought here because right now, you've went and got that Gold Fury. You've went ahead and stopped the bleeding as Port Degree picks up a kill over the solo lane. Feeling pretty good about that if you're Kaiju because the gold lead is about 1,000 gold right now. It's nothing crazy to write home about. You have found a way to stay relevant in this game, even though the fights or the ganks haven't necessarily gone your way. But at some point, the next Gold Fury is going to spawn, and I think if you're PPP, you have to show up. Spooky, what are your thoughts?
I think they absolutely have to show up because if you notice, that kill that Port Degree got over there, along with some additional farming, has shored up a lot of the gold deficit that Kaiju was at. This is very much still an even game here. Oh, Sweet is showing the value of this aggressive Amaterasu. She might die quick, but boy, howdy, she sure cuts you down quick, too. If they're looking to get set up for a Gold Fury, this is a great spot for it.
Yeah, now this is an interesting play because they're trying to set up more, but Golden says this is my golden opportunity to go in. They're going to look for the Amaterasu. Sweet. It might just get away for the time being, but can Baz get out too? Kaiju get away with one there. But if you're PPP, you're excited about the fact that that's still a TKO. That gets them out of the fight. They're not coming back for a while. But what a great play there for Kaiju. I mean, they step up and they don't get fully punished there, Spooky. It seems like they might, and I agree. I love this aggressive Amaterasu, but do you think maybe it might be too aggressive?
I think I like what I'm seeing. She is opting for a few defensive items here, so she is going to be shoring up that instant squishiness. And frankly, I think if you're finding value in the aggressive playstyle, it's working out. Could it have gone south? Yes. But frankly, any risk you take could go badly. That's why it's a risk. The point is to try to figure out where you can balance that, and I think Kaiju actually has a pretty good idea of it right now. We saw the Kurnanos ult come out. That's down for a little bit. Gold Fury is going to be coming back up pretty soon. And the fact that Kaiju was able to get out with their lives means they're in a good position to step back up to this Fury and try to see if PPP is going to answer them this time. And based on the positioning right now, you see Yarkor's on the right side. This could be an advantage for Kaiju.
Yeah, I mean, Kaiju have the advantage here. If they get another Gold Fury in their favor, they snuck the last one away. Like, just like sneaky snakes and just took it. They're like, haha, guess what, guys? I hope you enjoyed that solo kill because we got the gold. And these buffs go a long way, but now having to play a little bit safe here is Golden. Then the Orbital Strike's going to come through. But now you have to be worried. Sweet dives the tower, and it's going to be enough to pick up a kill there. And this is exactly what Kaiju want. They want to set up this next Gold Fury, and this is going to do it. This is how you do it. What a perfect execution here by Kaiju. They're not dissuaded by the fact of being behind gold. They're excited by the opportunity as a fight over the Warhorn breaks out a little bit. Look, what I like about the charging there is it looks like they're waving at each other. And then they go back to charging the Warhorn. So shout outs to solo laners.
I guarantee you, from the time I spent in solo lane, they are doing anything but waving at each other. They go grab that Warhorn. Now, Gold Fury is started up here, anxious. Only one present, but boy, he's getting melted.
Yeah, I mean, what a great rally there just to try to get him off of it. But now you're going to pay the price with your life. It looks like if it's a sliver of health, Baz will pick it up. And you have 4 members of Kaiju over at this Gold Fury. And I don't think PPP has a real way to respond here. It's going to be another Gold Fury that this time it's not being snuck away. They are well aware on the side of PPP that this happened. Kaiju get another one. And you're talking about enhanced minions here at 10 minutes into the game. And that has to feel pretty good if you're Kaiju.
Kaiju is just doing a very good job of playing these objectives. Now, note, gold lead hasn't really been established. It's still very even, but Kaiju now has a lot more momentum. They've got more tools they can play with on this map. Those enhanced minions are a tool to start building up your gold lead. It allows you to push these towers a little bit more effectively and also defend your own to make sure that PPP isn't getting some easy picks in the gold department just from their minion waves shoving up. PPP now has to make an active choice to push for these towers to try to extend this lead. And Kaiju have a little bit more flexibility on the map. They can shift through this a little bit easier now that we've reached the mid game. Sweet on this Amma now has the Spirit Ropes, so she's got more mitigations going on for him. This is looking very nice for Kaiju as we start to progress this game further.
Yeah, and this is really, really nice. I agree. I like everything we're seeing out of Kaiju here as now a fight breaks out. They're diving the Neath, and the Neath is in trouble. They get the Relic, though, and that's a lot. You get Relic, get out of there now. You got what you wanted. Don't overstay, but it looks like Sweet might be looking for a little bit of a treat. And can they find it? No, not for now, but that's okay. You get a lot out of that dive there on both sides, whether you're Kaiju or you're PPP. Love to see it here. But one thing I wanted to highlight here is Yarkor has been a little bit silent as of late, but it could be Sweet being picked out around the corner as Sasano comes running in, and he has the CC to secure it. Can they finally find the sweet treat over in the mid lane? They do, and now Kaiju will walk away.
Phenomenal body block coming out from Anxious there. Tried to find the dash out. Blown simply steps in front and says, hey, buddy, where do you think you're going? Sure, you might silence her, but you got nowhere to go, and it ends the dash early. Phenomenal collapse from PPP. Unfortunately for them, there's really nothing up on the map for them to do with it. They can start pushing for towers, and it looks like it's exactly what he's going to do. Take that first tier 1 on the right side, put some gold in their pockets, and finally start to push this lead back up a little ways. This mid tower is where the focus really is going to start coming through.
Yeah, I love that these Naga minions are just really out here doing some work. They have been poking down some towers. If it's up to Yarkor, he's been using them to their fullest extent here. But now Yarkor's in a bit of trouble. Sweet dives, get a great silence in on Yarkor. And Yarkor looking to keep the fight initiated. But now there comes the Orbital Strike rally. Come crashing in from Anxious. Maybe causing Kaiju to be a little bit anxious about taking the rest of that fight. It looks like they will back off for the time being. Jacob picks up heat over the tier 1 tower and duo, but now Anxious in trouble. Port Degree looking to run it down. Good damage put onto the Bologna. Can you capitalize? Can you find more? Gold Fury not quite up. Kaiju looking to make a move here as they aggress into PPP's jungle. Sweet picks up Golden, and you're feeling pretty dang good if you're Kaiju with that fight. The gold lead's not in your favor, but you just picked up a unbelievable trade of 2 for nothing and a Gold Fury spawning pretty soon.
This is a good timing for Kaiju. They have to be in position to take advantage of it. Said, PPP should be back up by the time this Gold Fury comes up. So what do you do in the meantime? Let's take a little peek over here at the Pyromancer. Try and get that going for ourselves and make it a little bit easier to take that Gold Fury when the time comes. Port Degree to simply zone out just about anyone. This could be a big hole. Not going to be good enough. Still secured by Kaiju.
What a great play there. You know, I love seeing the Hecate plays. Open the gates just does so much. And every time it hits, you're like, okay, what's going to happen? How many did they pull? And like, it's one of those moments that feels so good in Smite 2. Unfortunately, this time it doesn't secure the buff. It doesn't secure any kills, but that's okay. Still look pretty cool. Kaiju come away with another objective. And what we've seen comp-wise, well, if you're securing the macro play, games tend to go in your favor. But now it's Golden being pressured here under the tier 1. Gold Fury looking like a snack to Kaiju right now as Anxious is being ran down on the Bellona, has to rally over the wall to be able to get out and not be aggressed upon any further. But does that leave Anxious with a way to go steal this Gold Fury? Port Degree getting ran at by Yarkor says, hey, you know what ice doesn't do well against? A lot of water and tsunamis. So really good play there by Yarkor to get them off the Gold Fury. Port Degree picks up a kill, but it's traded out here. You lose the support for a solo. A 1-for-1 trade, and still the objective hasn't been secured in any way. In fact, it was dropped. Yarkor about half health, looking to make a play here, but now getting wrapped around on by Baz. Baz looking to get some type of CC. Can't find it for now. Yarkor dashing away. That's what's so irritating about the Susano, but Heed is deep into Kaizu's jungle, has to leap over a wall to get out. It looks like Sweet might try to run this down, see if they can make a play here. They do need to watch out for Golden. You do need to watch out for Baronary, because Baronary's on the way, and this Hecate could change the tide of the battle. But for now, it will be dissolved, and PPP, get a few for their troubles.
Absolutely criminal how long Port Degree was able to survive in that fight. Like, yeah, you traded out a solo for a support, but how much he took from the entirety of PPP is crazy. He should not have lived to even make a trade out by that point. Kaiju should feel very good about where they're at right now. They can absolutely push into this. They are still in a slight deficit. And I think one thing that's important to note here, Blaze, is that Kaiju has been fighting to shore up this deficit. They have been fighting tooth and nail for every piece of gold to keep themselves even or ahead of PPP. But constantly, we take a look back up at the graphs, and you see PPP is just creeping up ahead of them. 2K, 1,500, little bits at a time. And they're not getting objectives to do it. They're just forcing these fights.
Open the gates, brings them in, and they get put down. Kaiju ends up on the bad side of that gate, and Baz takes a spill too. It's a triple kill for Baronary, and now PPP is going to be on the objective board here. We were talking about how they haven't secured much yet. They've just been kind of trickling and gaining camps and getting farm elsewhere, but now Baronary goes and picks up the unofficial quad onto Jacob. The only person left on the map for Kaiju is Laasian on this Neath, and you're over in the opposite jungle looking for some farm because PPP is looking to run it down over in the duo lane and pick up at least a tier 1 tower.
The team fights for PPP right now are just so good, and it's off the back of Baronary here. Open the gates does so much in a fight. I've long said, Blaze, that the best form of CC you can have is displacement. And boy, Hecate has so much displacement. The ability to just move 2-3 people at a single time back into your team to get blown up. It is why PPP is in such a good position for that fight. Granted, PPP was already in a pretty good spot. They were putting a lot of damage out onto Kaiju and forced them to take a step back. But the fact that Kaiju can't make that retreat and are forced to instead be in PPP's faces, it was disastrous for them. If Kaiju wants to find a way into this game and try to turn this around, they've got to make sure Baronary does not have the space to cast. The problem with that is that diving Hecate is also difficult because she can just drop the portals at her feet.
Yeah, I mean, she drops portal feet, throws a shield on her, but now we see that Odin cage, and it's on to Port Degree. Not going to be escaped this time. The Ymir frozen in space there and just gets deleted, and this opens up PPP for a Pyromancer, and they are going to take it. Remember, no objectives now, too. They're feeling pretty good. They said, hey, We might have not secured the first few. That's okay. We're now going to get on the map, and we're going to actually spiral this gold lead now at 5K. They didn't only did to get gold. They didn't only just get pyro. They're now pulling fire because they know that Kaiju is a bit away, but look who's on the way in. Sweet is, and Sweet's looking to make a play. Here comes Baz. They're trying to find a way in. Yarkor, great ult. Anxious confirms the Fire Giant, but do they lose anything on the other side? No. Kaiju loses Baz. Golden picks up a kill. The Asian picks up Yarkor, and that's the first spill for the Sasano. But now PPP are running towards the dual lane, and they are picking up more. Baroneri gets another kill, now 6-0-3. Feeling really, really good here as the tier 2 tower gets aggressed on. You have the tanks there. You have an option of being able to stop it, but really and truly, can you afford to step up against 4? I don't think you can, Spooky. And I look at this Port Degree build for this Ymir, and I don't know that it's tanky enough to be taking these engagements.
Well, in order to be tanky enough, Blaze, it would have to be tanky in the first place. And I mean, we've got some like tier 2s in there, but that's really not giving you much survivability. And we saw that in practice. Port Degree tried to go into the ultimate and blast the ice shards out, but he simply got eviscerated in a heartbeat. Granted, he had like 4 or 5 people all shredding him down, but you could see how very squishy this Ymir was in that moment. He's gone for a more offensive build. He just doesn't have the space to make this build really work for him right now. Sure, you can try to get on top of someone. You can start smacking them around with your ice cudgel. But the simple fact is that PPP does have a good amount of CC. He can drop a stun on you. Golden can root you and simply walk away. Baroneri can mez and walk away. There just isn't enough lockdown from Kaiju to make this Ymir build really work. It's reliant on staying on top of a target and not getting pretty much blown up. And the fact that PPP knows how to group, and they're not going to let anyone on their team simply take a 1v1 with the Ymir. They're going to collapse, and they're going to stay in this death ball state, especially with the Fire Giant around 4 of them now. This is an easy Ancient Fury. Kaiju doesn't have much of an answer as the cage comes down.
Cage comes down, shell goes out. I mean, and this is a retreat here by Kaiju, and Yarkor was stepped up and doing some pretty good damage on the backline there. Made Jacob think about it for a moment, but the Ancient Fury opens up so much for PPP. They can now just walk into these objectives. They don't have to worry about taking tower shots or Phoenix shots. They can just full dive if they want to. They can find the picks they need, and they can take these down, and that's exactly what they want to do. They want to run it down. Tier 2 gone in the dual lane, and now looking towards the Phoenix as Yarkor splits off, looking towards Midbird. I like this split. Put pressure on them. Make them think about, where is Yarkor? What's he doing? Where is he going to come out? Because he can wrap around, and if he hits anything from the flank, it's going to be devastating. But now it's a bird fight for the time being. Can they find a way to defend the bird is the question for Kaiju. And as of right now, they're doing a decent job. Nice wall, but that wall might pay dividends in the price of PPP running it down. Heed gets a kill. They're looking for more. Good Aegis to get Jacob out. Actually, it was a disapparate. My bad. And they go into the Titan room. Now, is there any way for them to defend Spooky?
They still got a chance. They still got 4 members alive. Be careful, Sweet goes all the way in, and Jacob's already dead. Unstoppable is Baroneri.
Yeah, I mean, you open the gates, and when you get 2 or more, you're feeling pretty good. We've already seen the unofficial quad. Baroneri says, if you give me the Hecate, you will pay. And now they're trying to kill the Asian in the fountain. The rally here is there. Baz spawns. Anxious might end up paying the price. The Titan is still alive. It's doing damage. Heed finally gets to Titan to take a little bit of health as they get the damage off. The game goes to PPP, but Kaiju put up a heck of a fight here in the semifinals, and I'm sure they'll be back next week in the Smite Prime. But in this semifinal matchup, what are you thinking of PPP heading into the finals here, Spooky?
I'm thinking I don't let Baroneri have this Hecate again. He was way too effective, constantly just destroying any grouping that Kaiju was trying to put out. It just has so much versatility to it. Anxious on this Bologna looked really good. Better than I expected out of the Bologna support, but when you get to a certain level of play, you can do a few things here. But I think it's really the biggest impact in this game is the builds, right? Anxious goes to Amanita Shroom. It is such an impactful item. It allows these teams to siege and then re-siege and just keep themselves sustained for such a long period of time in these engagements. And you can see there really wasn't anything on the side of Kaiju to really match that. We don't have anti-heal. We don't have a Shroom of our own. It really just made it difficult for them to keep up these extended fights.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked what PPP did here. Unfortunately for Kaiju, some of those builds didn't work out, but they did make it to the semifinals tonight. That's nothing to bat an eye at. I'm sure they'll be back next week. But PPP's heading into the finals, and we're heading over to a quick break before the finals for tonight.
Yeah. Love. Yeah. You must walk on water, cause I'm drowning and you made it. Met you on the corner, first in love, it was payday. Candy colored nails, match the candy coated bands. I needed your contact, my eyes bugging out my head, cause you hot as shit. Nah, just she African. Not no bottom bitch, top notch out here. Love me like I love myself, love it when she smile at me. White teeth with a heart of gold, and I'ma put a diamond in it. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ring like the camera is free when she calling me. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ain't gon' be a man to pick you up, you stay down for me. Eyes closed, arms out, flying. Red Bull, babe, you give me wings, pilot. Girl, I know your voice, sound like love calling me. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. All around free in a nurse circumference. When she round me, she come first, and she quick. She say she feel my emotions when I just give thanks, can't believe we in the same bed. God do it best, shout out to my angel, she a mess. Clean up when she stressed, never stressing me. Lucky please, I'm the luckiest, feel it in my chest. Treasure you, I swear you a diamond. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ring like the camera is free when she calling me. Ring, 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 love calling me. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a
Nothing in the world could ever be good again. I've been nothing but a girl who really should be nothing less. Don't mess up and don't you tell us so how you actually feel. If you do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you climb your way up. Do it on your own and you shit out of luck. Nobody will help if you're flying too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Cause you're gonna get burned. They say you should never roll all the dice without a hand. It's make or break when you never did stand a chance. Don't mess up, don't you tell us so how you actually feel. If you do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you climb your way up. Do it on your own when you shit out of luck. But it will help if you're flying too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Smite Prime Time semifinals action. You thought last game was semis? I don't know where you're getting the information from. You must be crazy. I'm D'Lo, joined here by the spookiest of Mars, almighty eyes in the sky, Tess and Cash Money Morty, with Jithens behind the curtain. It's Rufus Rampage joining us on the stream for the first time this night, alongside Scrumptious. How we feeling, Spooks?
We're feeling great. These are two fantastic teams that I think we've been waiting to see come together in this tournament here tonight. Rufus Rampage, formerly Team But with 5Ms, formerly Rufus Rampage as well. I think everyone will recognize the roster from both sides here. We saw a little bit of Scrumptious earlier on tonight, and they were looking like they were on fire. Rufus Rampage are no slouches themselves. With the first pick of Fenrir, this one's been banned away a lot here tonight, D'Lo. And you know what? I'm not convinced it's not a support.
I think it's been banned every single time. That's rather scary. Odin also has been the recipient of quite a few of those Bs. Now going to be receiving the P. Bacchus, as well, joining the battle, hasn't been quite as impactful as you might hope in some of these games just because people are liable to recognize the weaknesses in that soft, squishy blubber. Kukulkan is going to be the answer from Rufus Rampage alongside that Loki.
It's very interesting to see the Loki come out here. Very, very early in the draft for it as well. I can't say I'm the biggest fan of it. There's a place for a Loki to come in when you know you have some squishy, immobile targets and you just want to be able to blow them up. I can't even say it feels like they're trying to pick it away from Scrumptious in order to protect their Kukulkan, because Sasano is up and it's now picked by Scrumptious. And there's also a Morgan there. So there's a lot of really great Morgan targets right now. You can double Typhoon, you could double Cage, and the Cage messes with Fenrir's Ragnarok a lot. It's looking like it's going to be a very dynamic game.
Sometimes if you can't beat them, join them. I just pick the fur ball myself. Get yourself a nice Ragnarok on that Kukulkan. Is going to be very potent, especially when with that Zeus Amaterasu lock-in, no very obvious Guardian who's going to be bearing that talisman. So now looking at this comp as the on-her Sasano finishes off Scrumptious, do we know where this Fenrir is roaming?
All right. This has to be, in my opinion, a Fenrir support. Loki's jungle, Ama's in the solo lane. There's going to be Zeus ADC, I'm expecting. Where the Fenrir roams, you can try to go for the Morgan, but she can stealth and also can transform someone with CC immunity. On her is still a good target. You can burn the Desert Fury. He has to either buy beads or just be eaten. Odin could pretty easily pick up the talisman if it's support. Really, either support can pick up Talisman of Purification for Scrumptious in order to try to counter this Fenrir. I'm just struggling to figure out where this Loki is going to find value.
It's a question that sadly has been plaguing this pick for a long time. We all know that's effective. We're going to have to find out how effective it will be as we jump into the game here. Rufus Rampage versus Scrumptious for the semifinals of Smite Prime. Just trying to gear up for that ultimate battle. Once again, I'm D'Lo, joined here by Spooky and Spooks. The question I didn't get to quite ask you at the desk, comp for comp, who we liking more?
I mean, on paper, I just like Scrumptious's draft way more. For one thing, it doesn't have a Loki. It's already an extra point from me. It also just feels a little bit more coherent. Obviously, PBM wants to pick someone up and drag them into tornadoes, maybe lightning storm, and just watch them die. Well, my question is, what do we do after that? Sure, Cherry can be the one to start things up as an offensive, set up a lightning storm. Honestly, PBM's probably just dragging someone back into Spirit of the Nine Winds from Scream. But like, you have these small pieces. But when I look at the bigger team fight 5-on-5 picture, I'm not seeing as clear of an image as I am with Scrumptious, whose game plan is very simple. Get Haddix in, drop Cage, now we fight. If they escape from Cage, Shinto drops second Cage. We continue the fight.
Yeah. That is an interesting point you make there. I think maybe Rufus Rampage then maybe trying to not have a 5v5 fight. Maybe just trying to get that quick Fenrir pluck off, play fetch, get a kill. Now it's a 5v4. And then you don't need to worry too much about the cohesiveness if the numbers are in your favor. I think you make an excellent point, though, that there's not quite as much obvious initiation. You have that dazzling offensive, you have the Ragnarok. Once those two diamonds are no longer shining, though, what do you have left? It's going to be a bit hard. You have to maybe be a bit more wily with it. And certainly that Coyote, Fenrir, trying to do exactly that. As they look to invade here up against Asano and on her. No easy task for sure. Morgan, though, making their first debut here all night, if I'm not mistaken. Our thoughts on this mid lane matchup?
I think it's kind of a wash. I'm not expecting too much to happen here. The mid lane one-on-one matchup is Dream is dropping tornadoes and Shinto is clearing wave. Okay. The real spice comes from the junglers. You can already see Vaporish making a rotation over to that mid lane. Maybe looking to get active.
Dropping potentially in the back end, but looking for the speed buff instead. Yeah, just going to look for some safe farm. Morgan also wants to look for some safe farm. Says, hey, I can relate to that. Unfortunately, going to be a bit too late to that party. Not going to get too much for it. And Loki just going to continue to try to get that invade on going. Must be noted here.
So
Zeus
fast.
carry. Not only is it a Zeus, it's a Zeus carry. What does that bring your team?
A very interesting composition is what it brings your team, D'Lo. I'm not going to say I think it's a bad thing. I do think that this Zeus has some potential. Mind you, he can build crit now if he wants to. He has a lot more build options. It's notable that his charges stay on their target after he presses 3 and detonates the charges, so he's not losing the extra damage that his passive stacks up from pressing his abilities. However, someone might lose their life here.
Rough pickings there for Sasano. Gorn is gone. First blood there goes to the Kukulkan. Morgan can do not too much about it as the health bar is still looking relatively healthy for that mid laner. Loki can't say the same, has to back up in the dual lane. Seeing similar signs of aggression here, and now in fact, Loki being emboldened to move up as the rest move up onto Zapman. Shinto falls down as well. 3 kills in the span of less than 3 minutes. Rufus are on the rampage.
Man, I'm so glad I didn't talk about the pick potential of both teams here, because I was looking at this and thinking, wow, Shinto on the Morgan, they've got a Susano. Surely they should be active in roaming and just blowing people up because they do have good assassination capabilities on their team. But right now in the early game, Rufus Rampage is doing a very good job. I didn't expect Scream to survive there. I didn't expect him to pick up the kill onto Gon. And the fact that he did just pushes them a little bit further in advantage. The dual lane, not too surprising, right? You picked this Fenrir because you want early aggression. Now it's going to be answered in the mid.
That aggression falling on top of the danger noodle, but no real danger for them quite just yet. That wind siphon doesn't put them down and out. Just gives them a bit of combat testing. And when you're looking at the kill spread here, 3 all in different pockets, it's nice to see that love spread, Spooky.
It certainly is. Unfortunate for Cyclone that he couldn't get any, but seeing your Fenrir get a little bit further ahead and getting that early damage online deeper, very good. Loki gonna be coming in here for an invade. Stunned out.
Ooh, Dad says, enough playtime, my friend. You are grounded. Stop and think about your actions. Loki playing a bit of Ring Around the Rosie. You know, it's always nice to see fathers active and engaging with their kids on the playground here. No one else going to join for the play date except maybe a Kukulkan. Decides better of it, though. No one wanting to force that issue. Aggression on both sides here in the jungles, but if you're looking at the farm so far, despite these 3 kills born by Rufus Rampage, it's still even Stevens.
Yeah, and I think that's a big factor from Dawn, who's been very active in just moving around the map, trying to find some camps to steal away. He was the victim of a red buff invade, wasn't too happy about it. He goes ahead and answers that back, tries to take some farm back away from Rufus Rampage and mitigate the gold that they find from those kills. 3-0, really couldn't tell by just looking at the state of the game right now. And as the game goes on, Trump just is showing they have very good map play. And this has been a theme throughout the game, or throughout the night, really. We see a team getting some kills or getting some objectives we're not seeing the leads that we expect to simply because the farming from the opposite side has been so efficient. And really, that's kind of Shinto's whole thing, isn't it?
It's not even just a theme across the night. It's a theme across every single week, all 4 that we've seen here on Smite Prime, where if a player's good enough, kills don't really mean a thing. Kills are just a number. Just like age. Unfortunately, Loki might not be able to grow any older. If they fall to the Susanoo Typhoon, indeed, your life ends here. Gone, gonna make Vaporish Coast a whisper in the wind as that Typhoon sweeps them up. Kukulkan tries to back them up. Cyclone Spin spun right back as well to base there. 2 kills dropped in favor of Scrumptious. They're answering back on the kill board.
Not too surprising at all. Everything forced out from Vaporish on that Loki. Had to use the ultimate, tried to use the stealth, could not get away from the danger that is gone. Typhoon was very well placed. Unfortunately for Scream, the tornadoes just don't come out all that quickly. He's not able to find a whole lot of follow-up damage after he dropped his ultimate. And so both sides simply walk the opposite way. That man getting the kill on the left side, though, that's a big deal. This on her can really accelerate. I think that's a very good matchup into this Zeus as well. The penetration that on her gets has always been a rather understated thing, in my opinion. It hasn't ever been like a big flashy, ooh, wow, it's such a valuable passive, but it truly is extremely valuable, especially in these 1v1 trades, because Cyclone simply isn't going to be hitting quite as hard. Yes, he's going to be stacking up the charges, and each one does get his in-hands to do more damage. I don't think it's quite as effective as just chunking through armor.
Trying to chunk through this Fury at the moment as many members of Rufus stumble around it. They do manage to grab it for their side as well, and they're trying to retreat back. They want no quarrel. They want no fight. Scrumptious deciding whether they want to actually push the issue. It seems they will, but that Whirlwind provides a good amount of deterrence at the very least. Fenrir, a bit of trouble here. Caught out, but having to try to retreat. The flop does a decent amount of damage. Kukulkan waiting in the wings, but Vaporish Coast turned into Vapor once more. This time by the Fenrir. Another kill dropped in the pockets here of Rufus Rampage to even up the boards there. Gonna keep trying. Oh, sorry, on the pockets of Scrumptious. So they continue to try to mount this pressure in advance for that Gold Fury takeaway. Cyclone Spin goes down as well. Makes it 4-3 so far. Puppy Dog turning tail and running. Does not want to give up these camps that easily. You might learn to regret that, my friend. Pulled back in on nice and close like the dog gets put down.
That's a classic Morgan moment there. Turns into your own Fenrir and says, hey, you know that thing that you wanted to do to us? I'm gonna do it to you instead.
It got my neck.
I mean, Vaporish just did not get to play there. Got eviscerated. And I just don't understand the continued aggression from Rufus Rampage, right? They lost the fight. All right. It's tough breaks, but it happens. And then Cyclone goes down. Then PBM tries to go and contest on the purple buff. At some point, it's not really worth it to continue that fight.
Yeah.
And that line was crossed when Cyclone was like half health. After that, you gotta just let it happen and get what you can on the other side of the map. Statman's gonna go ahead and invade. He's gonna get a little bit of an XP lead. It is what it is. What I'd really like to see is some more focused aggression coming out from Rufus Rampage. They're not a team comp, as we've stated, that's looking to 5v5. We need to see some rotations happen. I don't really care where it's to. I'd like it to be onto Zatman. Try to get Cyclone a little bit further ahead on this Zeus pick if you're going to find success with it. We've got a Fenrir and a Loki. Get that single target damage going and get it onto a person that you can blow up.
8 minutes here. Haven't gotten to quite fulfill on that obligation just yet. 3-5 in favor of Scrumptious, and the gold is 2. I mean, like you said, they have focused aggression. That's what they need. They had it on the Gold Fury, but then they started to kind of lose control a bit. The Wolfman got just a bit too crazy, started going berserk, saw them taking away their camps, and just lost it. Unfortunately, lost their life for it too. So that gold lead going about 3,000 the way of Scrumptious despite losing that objective, and they're just fine for it. Look at this Susanoo rotations. Gone, like you said, making every camp just gone with the win. So is Kukulkan. Wants no part of this fight as his tier 1 tower slowly whittled down. Scrumptious just putting that map pressure wherever Rufus Rampage aren't.
I think Scream would disagree with you on that one. These camps are not gone with the wind. Scream is the wind, and he's not seeing any of these camps, man. They just disappear, and he's got no clue what happened to them. On is just depriving Rufus of any kind of XP. We're going to see a pickup here. Zatman could be in danger, but he's just going to jump away.
Hey, I gotta jump too. Don't you worry about that. Haddox finds the kill on a cherry in the meantime, but Bacchus going to ward off the puppy dog with that belch. They do have stronger senses of smell after all, and unfortunately, can't quite track down the line without maybe eating some extra poke on your side. Bacchus could be in trouble though, laying down their flop for the cause. Might lay down their life, might lay down their on her. They go back in to try to save their support. The sneeze gonna be narrowly avoided. Same with the impale. PBM though loses the trail, goes back instead to try to assist with the camp. Unfortunate there is exactly what you asked for, right? It was the gank on the on her. We just couldn't quite fulfill the mission.
See, I like the idea of trying to kill Zatman. I said you should try to kill Zatman. But I was really hoping it would be more like a 3v1 instead of just a 2v1. And then by the time the rest of Rufus Rampage shows up, everything is so split up. Nobody dies there whatsoever. And Cyclone's going to eat a lot of damage. Zap is back.
You want to see how to do a nice gank? Zap says, here it is. Cyclone spin gets spun right round and right back into that fountain. Now Fenrir being chased back home again. PBM says, man, that was well executed. Maybe you have to replicate that, my friend. Learn from your enemies. Don't just spurn them. Amaterasu in the jungle trying to cause some havoc of her own. Grabs a nice speed buff for the troubles, but not what you wanted to see, man. That attempted gank gets turned on your head, and now the puppy could be in a bit more trouble. Bacchus going aggressive. At the very least, Fenrir gets away.
He's going to be A-okay for right now. Keep your eyes on the mid lane as well here. You see Cherry trying to get aggressive, pushing Shinto back, but not able to find that kill. And this has been kind of a consistent thing. We've seen a lot of aggression, but these are all extremely good players here, D'Lo. I mean, wow, the pros are good at the game. Who would have thought? The relic usage has been on point. The movement is on point. And Shinto is just not going down. He's taking one spill, and he simply walks away from the rest of the aggression. It wastes a lot of Cherry's time, and they don't really find a whole lot for it. And this is just continuing Scrumptious's lead of farming the map and building up gold and XP advantages. It's been continuing throughout 12 minutes now, and they're showing no signs of slowing down.
Definitely not slowing down, chasing down Cherry. That Jet Stream falls off just in time for that glorious charge to get enough distance, so didn't have to worry about the cage and the fight after. No Warhorn for you, though, unfortunately, my friend, and that just means Rufus Rampage continuously stuck underneath their structures. You want to see them rotating. We just haven't gotten to it quite just yet, as this tier 1 is liable to take a bunch more damage. This Amaterasu, man, just hasn't gotten to see the impact that we hope, and that's because when it's confined to solo, you can't make those rotations, so I don't know, is the next Gold Fury the time we need to see them shine, or it might just be Scrumptious looking for it at the moment as they begin to gather round once again. Rufus Rampage, not liable to actually confront it. This could be troublesome. A second Gold Fury on the mark here, and Rufus Rampage might want to push that lead, at least in the objective game. Not going to go their way. Furies are all tied up.
Yeah, I think you saw the answer pretty much as soon as the question left your mouth there, D'Lo. Scrumptious groups up on the Gold Fury, not a peep from Rufus Rampage. All quiet on the western front and the southern front and the eastern. Pretty much nothing happened when Scrumptious walks up to that. And I refuse to believe that Rufus Rampage wasn't aware that Scrumptious was making a pull there. Now their lead is 5,000 gold. Cherry, for his part, is trying to proxy waves, but look how far behind he is, Haddox, right now. He's 3 levels down. And sure, he's not going to die to Gone coming in here, but it does force him away from the wave. He means he can't finish that proxy, and he ends up losing XP off of that. So far, it's like you said, Amaterasu has just not really been a factor in this game. Hasn't been able to leave the solo lane. And I really feel like part of that is just Rufus Rampage is not firing on all cylinders right now. They're not all on the same page. You can see there's a little bit of uncoordinated movements, and it's getting the better of them.
It's what you said at the desk. The comp itself just seemed a bit discombobulated, and you see it reflected sometimes in the play. And that just means when those rotations happen, when that Odin cage starts to drop, that dog is not going to be leaving the shelter unless it's in a pillowcase. So you got to make sure that you're being careful, because you see them already rotating around. Amaterasu is trying to catch up in that farm. Hey, there's kill shelters here in Smite. This isn't a no-kill shelter. I see that puppy dog. He doesn't have its shots. I'm putting the sucker down. About 15 minutes. 3-7 might try to look to put down the line instead. I'm not sure what the regulations are on exotic pets, but we're going to have to find out as Amaterasu.
It's poaching.
To try to look for them on the left side. Cyclone Spin pushing that as well, but the Honor doesn't want to quite leave their tower, potentially recognizing that danger is afoot. This is the gank we've wanted to see here. It's a 3v1 that we've asked for. Loki bringing up the rear as well. Here goes the engagement. Looking to be in quite a bit of trouble. The Aegis used, and unfortunately, the Lion abused. Big shutdown there for Coast.
A massive shutdown. It took a lot of time. And in the meantime, take a look where Scrumptious is. They've recognized, hey, we had that opportunity. Let's pick up a runic bomb for ourselves. Take the Pyromancer down and push things a little bit further. If you're going to commit every single member of a team to one side of the map, you know that the opposite is going to happen, right? Scrumptious picks up their objective, and they continue that gold lead, right? You get the kill. Have you found any value for it? Tier 1 tower is a nice start. Tier 1 in mid would be even better. Scrumptious isn't going to let that happen too quickly. Morgan actually changes into Scream and just drops the kit.
And there's going to be the Ragnarok dropped right back. Some decent damage here falling on top of the Bacchus, who says, let's get turned before I go down. Pour one more drink out for my homie. The Sunder dropped on him as well. Wrong you, made a wrong move. And now they're dead for it. Unfortunately, Scream can say the same. Gon takes them away for the killing spree. And now the puppy dog lost. Going to be picked up by animal control in just a second. And that's going to be Sasano following them off the mark. Is that a second Fenrir Dirksy? God, it's your own shadow. Come back to haunt you. The Nightmares Pass is on, who tries to put those slashes in their back with those spears. Just going to be a bit of a chase down here for Puppy Dog. But of course, having that mobility, not going to be too easy of one as the rest of the team just grabs farm. Unfortunately, Fenrir howling their way down to the grayscale. Might be Zeus saying the same as Cyclone. Trying to get some farm. Just leave me be, they say. I'm the god of gods. Unfortunately, now you're the god of the fountain once again. 2 members added to the kill count.
When the heads of the Pantheons clash, the one with more backup is the one that wins there, D'Lo.
My squad runs deep.
Cyclone just didn't have enough damage to take on both Shinto and Haddix. The rotations, the movements from Scrumptious have just been better so far. And, I think it's important to note that this isn't the typical Rufus Rampage lineup, right? Vaporish is subbing in, Scream is off-rolling as well. So there's a reason they're not all firing the way they typically do. The synapses aren't quite what they typically are. The facts are on the paper, on the screen right now. It's a second Gold Fury going the way of Scrumptious, 3rd in the game, which means the Ancient Fury will be spawning the next time it comes up. And frankly, Scrumptious are in the better position to take advantage of that. They've got 2 Sunders, they've got massive leads. Haddix hasn't maintained the massive lead he once had, but he's still ahead. And the simple fact is he's been rotating, and Cherry has not. That's the only reason he's catching up right now.
And when he's rotating, kills follow. You're helping your team, and that's what's keeping everyone ahead. All my homies eat, they say, and they certainly are. About 18 minutes in, 5 to 10, double the kills here for Scrumptious. Not double the gold quite just yet, but still 6,000 advantage, and double the Furies, so double those buffs. We'll take it, for sure. Rufus Rampage. They've got answers. They've got tools. They've got great players on their side. What's their way back in?
I mean, it's really tough right now because Scrumptious is not just ahead. They've picked up 2 Talismans of Purification. So typically, Rufus Rampage would want to have PBM get active, jump in, grab a squishy target, and pull them in, blow them up, and try to find something with numbers. That's really hard to do when you're fighting against 2 AoE beads on the opposite side. You have to think, what are my other options? Can we look at grouping? Can we look for a team fight around one of these objectives? Not super well. You have to let Scrumptious be the ones to engage first. And they're here on the Fire Giant, but Rufus just isn't in position to drop a Lightning Storm to try to capitalize.
Gonna drop a bomb instead. The Ragnarok follows it up. Haddix grabs that FG in spades, and the Puppy Dog once again not going to be adopted, not going to be loved this time. They will still make it back home at the very least with their life in tow. But Scrumptious have made it back to base with 5 members strong, all bearing that FG buff.
This, I think, is one of the toughest parts of facing a Morgan who's ahead. You have all these tools that you want to use to try to fight back in and try to get yourselves ahead, only to have them ripped away and turned back on you. The paths for Rufus Rampage are becoming narrower and narrower by the moment. Their gold deficit about 7,000. Normally, that's something you think it's bad, but it's not game losing. We still have a way to fight back into this. But frankly, there's also a fire giant you're fighting into on top of the 7,000 lead. There's also 2 gold fury stacks you're fighting into. And pretty soon, you're going to be looking at an ancient fury coming up. I don't think Rufus Rampage is in a great position to step up to that fury and say, hey, we're gonna fight you now, because all Scrumptious has to do is say, bet, here's a cage, this is our arena. Rufus Rampage is basically forced to play defensively under their structures and allow this gold lead to accumulate a little bit further and just play the long game.
And the amount of structures they even have in the first place is shrinking quickly. Tier 1 taking out that dual lane. Tier 2
no.
about to be the same. Loki might be off the mark next and manages to get back to safety, but only for a short amount of time because now they're knocking for that bird next. Susano's not part of the fight quite just yet. That's A-OK. Drops down the cage looking to try to find themselves a nice parakeet. Not going to get that bird quite just yet. Nice defense there. Forces Odin out. Forces a lot of damage as well onto Haddix, trying to put a bit of a bump in their step, but Susano is the wind beneath their wings that they might need to restore their offensive. Scrumptious instead decide we're not going to quite test our metal too much. Let's maybe wait for this Fury to crop up instead.
It's excellent for Rufus Rampage. Around tier 2s, they don't have much of a chance. But the Phoenixes, that's the place where you dig in. The fact that Vaporish was able to survive, yeah, he had to burn his ult to do it, but it was very important that he survived when he was being aggressed on his way back to that Phoenix. Because if he didn't, Scrumptious immediately has the numbers advantage. They don't have to worry about damage coming from stealth, unseen, bursting someone down, and they can get so much more aggressive. Phoenix was already being extremely aggressive. The fact is they still had to worry about that extra bit of damage that might come through, and that's what ultimately pushes them away from the Phoenix and back to the Ancient Fury. That said, not too much of a concern now with the Phoenix disabled.
Exactly. They're going to drop down 2 ultimates there from both the mages. Not going to be enough. Now the cage is dropped in response, and what will you do? Run for our lives! They tried to get out there fleeing. Cyclone Spin can't do it. They got no way back home but to the fountain. Killing spree there for Haddix. 1 member down. It might just be Damaterasu next, pulled back in by that Wind Siphon, but just as a bit of a warning shot. Scrumptious just going to take their tour around, knock down these birds, jumping in pleasure, jumping as a taunt before they begin the fight against the Titan anew.
Tried to go for the right side bird, realized there's still a tier 2 tower over in that lane, so let's take the left one instead. The defenses are broken for Rufus Rampage, but they're playing it smart. They're not stepping up to a Phoenix they know they can't defend. Wait for Cyclone to come back up. No major objectives. At this point, it's waiting for the Fire Giant. All Rufus Rampage can do is push these waves out and try to get themselves in a position where they can afford to step towards that far right pit. Can't let the fire minions walk in on your Titan. 2 waves will absolutely shred it down. Can't just give up the Fire Giant either. It's a precarious position that Rufus Rampage are in right now, and they have to balance on that knife's edge very carefully, or they'll go spilling off.
They got 2 Sunders and a Spare the 9 Winds, which is essentially a 3rd Sunder. They have options. They just got to make sure to use those tools carefully. Definitely don't want to see Cherry falling to a lazy back, now being circumvented.
Oh, no.
The Morrigan comes from the other teleporter. Odin makes the rotation. At this point, it's looking to be a done deal. The ultimate, just before they fall, they look to bring down one with them to the grayscale. Not going to be obliged. Pour one out for my friend Cherry as they go down to Nog.
Talisman of Purification came out. It was used just to keep the CC away. Now Haddix, having left, is going to just go ahead and put some aggression onto PBM. Everything just continues cascade in favor of Scrumptious right now, D'Lo. Look at this aggression on the right side. They know that they don't have an Ama. Gonna pick one up. PBM. Let's get back out.
This is just unfortunate to see. I mean, the play is ironically quite Cherry to just be able to pick up Cherry like that. Backing in the wrong spot on the wrong side of town. Now Scrumptious going to try to look for the second FG. Only Fenrir up to say something at the matter. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Instead, they just send a hit squad after the puppy dog. Just get me those damn Dalmatians, they say. It's going to be trying to escape away as Rongu takes that fire giant. Cruella de Vil chasing down the Fenrir to the ends of the earth, to the ends of the teleporter. You're not going anywhere, my friend. Back to the pound for you. PBM put back in the morgue.
You know, it looks silly, but I also fully agree with that decision from Scrumptious, right? Knows that they're going to be able to shred that fire giant down. He doesn't need to be there. The better play is just to force the Sunder away from the fire giant. Make sure that Rufus Rampage don't have that opportunity to try to steal it away. Addix has had enough of that, and now they're going to go ahead and move towards the Phoenix.
They don't have a Sunder, they don't have a dog, they don't have any structures left besides this Titan. And Amaterasu having to back, this time will not be called out for it. It's going to be a 4v5 for 8 more seconds before PBM rallies, but will man's best friend be able to put up the best defense is the question. The Discus Fury already going to be dropped. Some decent damage there put on the Morgan, but the stun right back. Vaporish Coast sent back to the waters, and it's going to be Cherry followed up right afterwards. 2 off the mark already. Rufus Rampage. Your time doing the tantrum is over. PBM in that Ragnarok, but this dog's got more bark than bite. It's going to be another game going down here to Scrumptious. They move on to finals.
Scrumptious just putting on a clinical performance so far. You know, you really would think the ones with the Fenrir would be the ones eating so much good food. But nah, it's Scrumptious who take everything. Shinto, 4, 1, and 4. Major contributor in all of those fights, but I gotta hand it to Gon. This Susano was extraordinarily problematic, D'Lo. He was constantly facilitating the early game, constantly taking camps away from PBM and the rest of his team. So I don't think Scream got a single back camp the entire time. Rufus Rampage just couldn't find any value in any of their plays. And at the end, it's just the cumulative value of the invades, of the single kills that builds Scrumptious into this Goliath that simply steps up to an objective and says, hey, I know your comp wasn't prepared for this. What are you going to do about it now? Rufus Rampage did not have an answer.
It's exactly what you said before. Those 3 kills fell in favor of Rufus Rampage. It all looks well and good. Then you look at the gold charts and you're disquieted a bit. You say, that doesn't seem right. Are we sure there's not just a bug going on there? And while that very well could be the case, unfortunately, their answer was quickly met by Scrumptious adding on some kills to the board and then continuing to heighten their gold charts. Cyclone Spin tries to make something happen here on this Zeus, but can't come up with the win. This pick just hasn't quite found its ground here in Smite Prime, or in general so far in Smite 2. It's a rough one to make work, though I respect the effort from Cyclone.
And definitely had some potential there. Unfortunately, I think there was just way too much aggression and not nearly enough peel on the side of Rufus Rampage. This
Exactly
is not a protect the president type of composition. Zeus is a character who does need to be protected. He needs to have teammates around him that are dedicated to giving him space and allowing him to set up the damage that he needs. Loki doesn't quite do that. And really, neither does the Fenrir. I like the ideas that they were putting in play, but they simply did not pan out. And I think maybe if you take one of them or 2 of them and put them into a different comp that's more tailored to them, you'll see better results from them.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, there's not much on-demand CC. Even though you got that thunderclap giving that movement speed, don't be fooled. Zeus lost his shield, so dude's got no defenses to spare. And that means that you're going to have to go home in despair. Rufus Rampage, their run ends here. Scrumptious, moving on to finals. Who will they be competing against? Only one way to find out. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the pinnacle of Smite Prime after the break.
just walk on water cause I'm drowning and you made it. Met you on the corner, first in love, it was payday. Candy colored nails, match the candy coated bands. I needed your contact, my eyes bugging out my head. Cause you hot as shit, nah, I just she African. Not no bottom bitch, top notch out of here. Love me like I love myself, love it when she smile at me. White teeth with a heart of gold, and I'ma put a diamond in it. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ring like the camera is free when she calling me. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ain't gon' be a man to pick you up, you stay down for me. Eyes closed, arms out, flying. Red Bull, babe, you give me wings, pilot. Girl, I love your voice, sound like love calling it. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. All around free in a nurse circumference. When she round me, she come first, and she quick. She say she feel my emotions when I just give thanks, can't believe we in the same bed. God do it best, shout out to my angel, she a mess. Clean up when she stressed, never stressing me. Looky please, I'm the luckiest, feel it in my chest. Treasure you, I swear you a diamond. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ring like the camera is free when she calling me. Ring, 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 love calling me. Love call again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love call again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love call again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a
Nothing in the world could ever be good again. I've been nothing but a girl who really should be nothing less. Don't mess up, and don't you tell us so how you actually feel. If you do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you climb your way up. Do it on your own and you shit out of luck. Nobody will help if you find too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Cause you're gonna get burned. They say you should never roll all the dice without a hand. It's make or break when you never did stand a chance. Don't mess up, don't you tell us so how you actually feel. If you do, then they'll cut you right at the heel, and it hurts. No one can save you. It's all on your mind to change too. And baby, you can really try if you climb your way up. Do it on your own when you shit out of luck. Nobody will help if you find too close to the sun. Cause you're gonna get burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned. Burned. Yeah, you're gonna get burned.
everyone, and welcome to the pinnacle of your Smite Prime performance tonight. PPP versus Scrumptious in the finals. I'm D'Lo, joined here by Blaze McBain, Eyes in the Sky, Tess, and Cash Money Morty with Jithins behind the curtain. Blaze, how we feeling?
I mean, we're at the finals, baby. It's always feeling good once we get here, and we have some teams that we are
Yeah.
pretty familiar with over the past month of Smite Prime, and that is PPP and Scrumptious. And the first band we're gonna see this game is Amaterasu.
Definitely good to see this god's been a threat. However, we've also seen there's a way to shut out the light. There's a way to shade the sun. They don't want to deal with that option though. You can't blame them for it. And Scrumptious don't want to deal with that Neath. They ban that away. No global ultimate, no problem.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting because the Fenrir has been left open. And I thought the Fenrir had been a problem. Last game we saw it in support, didn't see it in the jungle. So a little bit of a switch up here. I'm curious to see, does it make its way back into the jungle this game? I mean, obviously, the one thing I don't want to see, D'Lo, I don't know about you, I really don't want to see a Loki this game.
I don't want to see Nog on that Susano particularly. It's quite a fearsome prospect. Odin as well, gonna give you a bit of lockdown. So hey, now if you do see Susano, at least he's in a nice little shiny cage, but he can still make plenty to do with the room he's given within that ring of spears. So I'm still not quite confident if Scrumptious do manage to top lock that, which I'm not gonna lie, gotta imagine you do. Nog's been performing on that every single time that pick goes to you. Of course, the question is, could you perform better on the Fenrir? We're going to have to find out as they lock it in.
I mean, here's the deal. Does Sasano dash around and do a lot of damage and do all the things that a Fenrir can do? In some ways, yes. But a Fenrir can do so much more in some ways. The good thing for PPP is the CC is a little bit more predictable. But the sustain that Fenrir brings to the table tends to be problematic, and you don't know, is this pick going to be in the solo, the jungle? I mean, does it go support? It could even go carry. I don't expect to see that here, but I've seen this played in almost every single role between conquest, like regular casual conquest and ranked. I think it's a very good pick here for Scrumptious, along with that Bacchus. But meanwhile, PPP flexing the Hecate yet again here, along with that Odin, and those two have been a powerful pickup. Add in a Jing Wei, and I think you're in it for a pretty good time if you're PPP here.
Not only denying options for escape from Scrumptious, but also paving the way for that AC 130 just roll through with that airstrike. It's a ton of damage to people caught within the cage for both ways that strike goes. The Morrigan, though, again, if you can't beat him, join him. But also, you already have the Fenrir, so if you can beat them even worse. So you got the potential for the double dog. And Sasano going to only add to this physical assassin-like pressure that Scrumptious can mount.
I love this from Scrumptious. All right, they double dog down. They get the Morgan. You can have two Fenrirs, two Bacchus, two Sasano, whatever you want. But if there's something you're liking from the enemy team, and you're like, hey, that's popping off right now. It's a little bit of annoying. I think it could bring something great to the team fight. Looking at you, Odin. The Morgan starts feeling really, really good, especially if it's picked up in the mid lane. You have a lot of flex potential here and a lot of rotation potential on the side of Scrumptious. Yeah, it's a lot of single target, but I really like the setup that they have going on here. Meanwhile, PPP pick up Loki and Ymir. We've seen how Loki's gone pretty much over the past month. And really, the past 2 weeks, it hasn't gone well for the side that picks Loki. This doesn't bode well for PPP, but I do like their comp otherwise. Getting the Ymir and Odin together, I think proves to be useful as far as walls go.
For certain. You have all those player-made obstacles, you make a little box, and you sit in it. That being said, Honor says, okay, you erect that wall, I'm just going to slam you right back against that. You give me your own CC. Thank you very much. So you got to make sure you're placing those carefully. If you separate the fight, you could also be separating the health bar quickly of your squishies. So making sure to be careful with that. Having that on her also, of course, grants you an escape from those walls. Bacchus, Fenrir, and on her all have very easy, liable ways to escape. Morrigan, should they decide to go double dog style, they end up with that leap as well. So comp for comp, we've got them all locked in. What do we think as far as edge for which team wins?
I mean, I have to give it to Scrumptious here. I just based off the comp, I like
The lack
everything
of
this is
Loki.
breeding. the lack of Loki definitely bodes in the favor of Scrumptious, but also just having this Morgan in the mid is going to feel really, really good. It opens up so much playability where, okay, maybe Fenrir's popping off early. That's who I go into. Maybe Sasano's popping off early. That's who I turn into. Hey, we get to team fight phase, and I'm looking at this Odin. I'm like, man, hey, we don't have any walls, but you know what they don't have? They don't have leaps to get out of the cage. You bring it in, and you bring him into the cage, and you say,
True.
well, I've watched enough WWE to know how this is going to go.
Undertaker gonna slam you right down the coffin, a choke slam, just like Vicky Guerrero, and then you're put in a neck brace and you're put down and out of the Smite Prime champs. That being said, we have a bit of a flex option here. Scrumptious, Bear, Sasano, Bacchus, Fenrir. Jungle, you gotta imagine it's gonna be that Sasano, but the solo support flex, now that's a bit more of a question of interest. Your thoughts?
I think here you're probably playing to the Ymir. If you're going, not, I take that back. I think it's going to be Fenrir solo.
Okay.
All in all, I think Fenrir plays really, really well in solo. Honestly, though, either of those two are going to flex pretty well. Really, it's on the side of PPP. I'm more curious to see who they value to be in solo over duo. Earlier, we've seen a lot of Odin go solo, and I do think that's a good pick over there. But Ymir does well in solo. We've seen it throughout the night, do okay. But I really kind of want to see this Odin go support because of what it brings to the duo lane and the duo lane gank. It
Yes.
sets up so much. You hit level 5 and you say, congratulations, you're stuck in here with us. You are going to have to leap out and leap, hopefully, into our jungler if you have your leap up. And it just sets up so much for your carry, especially it being a Jingwei. Jingwei can rain down some damage inside that cage, has the CC to go along with it. I want to see Odin go support here for PPP. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm not so sure. I think we usually see Odin go solo. I would like to see a little bit of a spicy switch up here and maybe help facilitate that Loki being more viable with the dual lane ganks.
I'm with you 100% here, Blaze, because we saw Amaterasu at their most successful when they were bearing in that support. So we're going to be getting in a game here and find out where these gods decide to amble. But either way, it's finals for Smite Prime, PPP, and Scrumptious. Let's get into the game.
Yeah, and I think this is where things will get interesting. Is where does everybody decide to go? How many Sunders are going to be on the board? A Sunder they toll so far 2 on each side, and we see a few Aegis picks up here. And this has been the interesting relic for me because I think overall, from the comp perspective, it's probably the relic I've seen the least of. I've seen a lot of shells because of walls, seen the beads because of CC, Sunder because, like, let's be honest, it's Sunder. And it's really, really good. But looking over towards this Aegis, we haven't seen as much of it picked up. Just being able to get rid of that damage thrown on you and it being the Aegis of acceleration, giving a little bit of movement speed, does feel pretty good here. So interesting to see a few of them and how that pans out. But the grouping from PPP here, looking to do something maybe a little bit cheeky.
Definitely an interesting formation here. Cheer squad, ready to really motivate anyone who tries to invade. Motivate you with some death, perhaps, but no one's going to quite fall for that bit. It's always the fun thing to see. Will anyone take the trap, take the bait? We have not quite seen it at this high level of plays for quite some time. It is going to be that Fenrir support with that Bacchus in the solo lane. It's going to be that Odin solo as well. And I've got to hark back to what you're saying. I think that we're missing something here, that maybe if Odin can get a bit of a lead, I'd love to see them rotate early to bring that cage to everyone else and share.
Yeah, I mean, you have the teleporter in the side lane, and I don't think that's something we see used often enough from the solo perspective of rotating earlier. I do think junglers do a good job of using them, and I've seen duo rotate over to solo a good bit, but not vice versa. But now we have Rongyu doing Rongyu things, trying to get an invade on this purple buff. Doesn't seem to happen quite yet, but if they don't clear it, Rongyu will make a move for this.
Looking to try to find the final bits, not going to be successful. So, hey, a lot of time wasted, a bit of health as well on that Fenrir. That feels good. So PPP off to a pretty good start here with this duo, and that's what you want. Jingwei, all about that scaling, as we've said before, trying to keep her farmed up and happy.
Yeah, but I think Zapman does get a little bit of a lead here as far as XP goes. We'll have to see how it pans out. Already level 2 has to feel pretty good. Those side camps are coming up. They already have pushed out the wave. PPP, I would hope, go towards the gold buff here and say, hey, we're not going to go and pick up the side buff anyway. Let's go towards gold. And they play it a little safe, which is kind of surprising.
Not opting to go aggression. I mean, there's Ymir there. Ymir is always the face of aggression, if you ask me, but that's why I'm the one casting, not the one on the field. Ymir going aggressive right now, trying to follow up with some decent damage here as they chase them back to Kingdom Come. Rotation here is Loki finding their match met within the jungle. Susano, Storm Kata to ward them off. They're going aggressive as well with that final dash. Might not be enough damage to save yourself here, but backup's on the way. Drops the clone. They're going to be able to get out for just a second more. The Spell Eater, enough to ward off, and both teams agree to call it square.
I'm not going to lie. It looked like Yarkor was about to take a little bit of a spill there and maybe go gone, gone, gone. But does happen to live for the time being. But what I liked out of that was seeing PPP commit to the rotation back in. As we do get our first blood, Anxious takes a spill off the back of Wrongu, playing aggressive here on the Fenrir.
We will certainly take that. It's the best target to go for, the least mobile, the easiest to take apart. And it's in the pocket of your Fenrir. Not necessarily the best. You want Zapman to take that kill, but hey, an assist is just as solid. So PPP, we wanted them to play through this dual lane a bit. We wanted to see some of that aggression come through. Unfortunately, it's on the reverse side.
Yeah, I mean, the rotation came through for that middle of the jungle fight on that left side, and PPP, when they moved out, kind of dispersed into a situation where they couldn't play aggressive anymore. But I have a hot take, and I know this is a hot take as someone that's played a lot of carry in their lives. I actually like support getting first blood because it gets them to get their support item online sooner, which benefits more of the team than just me as a carry.
True.
And I like that better because they tend to rotate around a little bit. At least that was the case in Smite 1. We don't see as many rotations early here in Smite 2. But overall, I think support getting the first blood isn't actually as bad as what people like to make it out to be.
Especially when it's a Fenrir who is very mobile and can bring that merry happiness to the rest of the lanes if they indeed get those support items on lock. Unfortunately, Yarkor gets locked down. Haddix takes them out. Might be next here as they manage to put the cage down, escape that way. Odin staying safe at the very least for now, but a nice kill there for the Bacchus. We'll take it.
Yeah, and you hate to see this if you're having to use the cage defensively. Like, that just doesn't feel good. You lose one on the back end of that. That's 2 kills in favor of Scrumptious right now. Heed doesn't have that cage for a little while now, so not going to be able to use it to the favor of being able to be aggressive. PPP doing a great job of invading, or, trying to hold off the invade on their camps. But Scrumptious step up there, too, on the duo side, and they steal away purple. Right now, PPP needs to find a way to slow it down a little bit. I like the communication we saw when they thought they might get Yarkor caught out in the jungle. Now they just need to go through and figure out, hey, how can we replicate that, but execute getting a kill off of it? Nice Sunder by Haddix there.
We'll take it. Certainly nice to have that relic off the mark there, at the very least, so you can note that down for yourself. About 5 minutes in. It's a nice 2 kills. In favor of Scrumptious, the gold's still pretty solid their way as well. Sometimes we talk about the fact that kills don't really matter. In this case, still about 2k your way. And now this Gold Fury cropping up. And now it might be Hecate going down. No, not quite. Wrong move once again. Gets a bit too big for their britches. Gets punished.
You are really excited if you're Baronary and you live there, because you are staring down the jaws that want to run you down and make sure they get that kill, and living with just that sliver of health and also picking up a kill on the backside of it just feels good. But now it's Golden making a play here, trying to see if maybe they can catch Zapman out on this buff.
Some decent damage already dropping down, but a nice impale gives you some good space. In fact, they're going aggressive, looking to hunt themselves a Jingwei. That airstrike through the wall. Great placement of that to recognize the optimal space you could find for yourself. Escapes to the pit.
Yeah, that could have went really wrong really fast. So good thing, because I was worried they weren't going to be able to clear the wall and they had to come back. And if that happened, it was going to be a rough time. But this opens up Scrumptious being able to get a Gold Fury pool here possibly, because they know they no longer have to wear out the Jingwei ult, and now they're looking for a pick on Anxious.
This could be rough for the Ymir. Taken down once again. Shinto finds that kill. You do not want to be seeing those in the hands of the Changeling. They haven't even turned into their dog form quite just yet. Instead, we're dogging on this Gold Fury. three members all gathered up. It's all you're going to need. It's gone with the win.
Yeah, nom 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 goes Scrumptious. That's one in our favor. And that gold lead ever slowly getting a little bit larger. But along with that, now they're getting back to lane a little bit faster as well. So one Gold Fury in the pocket, nothing too crazy. But we have to keep in mind that if they go ahead and get the second two, that's when things start to be a little bit troublesome, especially when it's 10, 11 minutes in the game. Scrumptious not fully have their foot on the gas right now, but definitely trying to push things forward and keep PPP out of this game.
And they've got plenty of tools to do so. That's just, those tools aren't quite online quite just yet as Yarkor goes down again. That's definitely not a good look. Neither is being trapped inside of that cage. How are your wrestling moves there, Bacchus? Not the best. You might want to dust those off. To open the gates might give a bit of space. Not quite enough. The book is closed on Haddix's life. Ymir barely able to escape, just backpedaling, grateful to escape unscathed. And now it's just going to be Sano versus the Odin. Not a fight that I quite envy for you, especially with how much damage Nog's doing. Anxious was a bit too anxious, stuck around for fear of their solo dying. Instead finds himself on a one-way ticket back to the grayscale.
Here's the deal. All right, he finally gets to be able to use the ultimate, get everybody caged in, picks up the kill on Haddix. Looks like he might be able to get out. But if you're Nog there, if you get that kill in the tower, it's feeling pretty good. But now we get the 1v1. Who's going to win it is the question.
Fair strike.
No!
Oh, handicap match. Boo! Foul on the play. That's not fair at all. Will they still live? That would be an incredible show. Not quite. Zapman feels bad, man. The 2v1 did not go their way.
What a golden opportunity for a 1v1. It just gets ruined. Yarkor says, I don't believe in those, and just runs it down. Real rich for an old solo player to run it down as a jungler and just ruin the 1v1 for us, you know? But overall, that's the way the cookie crumbles when you're in ADC, and well, you just have to be ready for it. At any point, a Sasano, a Fenrir, anybody can just come hopping out of the jungle and take you down. Sadly, for Zapman, not the start that you necessarily want, but not out of hand just yet. But Golden off to a pretty nice lead here. Already has the level lead. And as Jing Wei, that's going to feel pretty good because those crits are going to be coming online sooner rather than later. And when that starts happening, she can delete people pretty quickly.
It was also a much-needed victory there for Yarkor, and also very in character, might I say, for a Loki player to just spoil all the fun. So I appreciate that. Get method with it, and maybe that'll bring some results. Now about 9 minutes into this game, it's 3-6. Scrumptious doubling the kills, and also with a nice 4,000 gold lead. Anxious, so anxious they can't even leave the bushes. I don't blame you after that last kill went down, buddy. Just stay safe, stay home.
Yeah, I think he needs to be able to get active in some way, shape, or form, though. I mean, the Ymir, you're waiting for a bush. You're trying to say, hey, maybe I get a kill here. But now, guess who you're fighting? In the middle, it's Nog. And Nog will play aggressive here, even though they're already half health. I don't... We got to find a way into the fight if we're anxious.
Yeah. And normally you could say, hey, there's an Odin, but they're stuck in solo lane. So that's the issue that brings with that case, especially when it's an Odin who has kind of been playing a bit from behind. Yeah, you got a kill on them, but they're still not necessarily liberal to be rotating. Look at that tower pressure already mounted. They can't abandon their structures or it will crumble, and they'll just get more global gold in their pocket. Now it's another attempt at the 1v1 here. Jingwei says, I don't like those odds. I like it better when it's 2v1. Ymir's trying to answer that call, in fact. Will the Honor fall for it? Will Haddix fall once again as Barry and Airy goes down to gone. And Bacchus trying to be gone as well. That clone going to be placed down. The Sunder placed on the back of their head means another kill here falls. Haddix goes down, but here comes the Morrigan as well. It's going to be swept up thanks to the Sasano for the killing spree. Odin will fall.
Yeah, and you spend so much to get Haddix there. And is it worth it? I'm not so sure. Is it, does it feel good? Does it give you a little bit of momentum? Maybe for that brief second, and then you step up and you go, oh no, I'm surrounded by 3. And when I'm surrounded by 3, that doesn't feel too good. The Morgan hits the stun, and at that point, it's basically go visit the gray screen. We'll see you back here in a little bit. Yarkor was around the corner, but there's not really an opportunity to be able to go in and do anything on the Loki here. But maybe that gets turned around here in a little bit. We'll have to see. Overall, though, it's Scrumptious extending this lead with the macro gameplay consistently here, now at 6,000 gold ahead. I have to be concerned about this next Gold Fury pool.
Zapman makes the rotation with the teleporters like we mentioned before, just to knock down that tier 1 tower, leaves Heat, nothing to really defend. At the very least, now you maybe have an excuse to rotate, but for what? Potentially this Fury that you mentioned here, Blaze, could be the object of our affections. What's their way to win the fight around it, though? We just haven't seen much luck so far for PPP in a fair fight. Do they have to engage in some underhanded tactics? How do they get the W?
I mean, it's going to have to come through getting Heat over here and getting active with the Cage and the Hecate. I think those two have to combine to be able to get some things together. Right now, Anxious is 3 levels behind. It feels bad. Scrumptious will get this next gold for free. No one's going to be able to step up to it and stop it. But you have to be able to get Anxious active in the fights because right now, the farm is just being kept from the Ymir. Ymir is very much behind. And I think if you can get Heed in the team fight with the Ymir, there's a very big pop-up potential. Whether it's Baronary being able to get and open the gates, or it's Golden here on this Jingwei, either way, I think the potential's there. But now we have Nog going in.
Kill potential here on top of the Jingwei. Beads expended too early. It's your golden hour, and it's your golden opportunity for Zapman to get that kill. Baronary paid back right afterwards. That tier 1 in the mid lane might just follow Bacchus, bringing that aggression all up front. Towers everywhere just crumbling, scrumptious, taking every morsel they can find on the map.
Yeah, and PvP are just getting aggressed upon here. The tier 2 tower mid is already at half health, and they're looking at Anxious looking like a snack, they say. And they take him down, and it was with ease. Only level 8 is the Ymir.
That's so unfortunate to see. This ice giant looking more like a mini ice figurine, an ice action figure at this point. 12 minutes or to 11. That gold lead just continuing to skyrocket. Here's a chance for you, but unfortunately it's going to be reversed right on top of your head. Loki quickly turns tail and run. Does not want to take part in this fight. Does not like it when the numbers are not in their favor, and those damage numbers certainly weren't. Rotation here, potentially. Onto Heat, who's trying to back away. Susano doesn't quite turn that corner, says, I'm not checking that dark cellar. Has watched their horror movies, is going to make sure to stay safe, but that means he does as well.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I really thought that Nog might actually blink the wall and go for the kill there if you heard the back. I was waiting for it. I was saying, oh, maybe we get a spicy play. But we have to go back to the fact that Anxious got deleted on the tier 2, but then Yar Core steps up. Your core steps up, and they immediately switch their target recognition and go, okay, we already got 1 kill. We have to get the Loki. And I don't even want to fathom how much health Yarkor had when they got out, but it had to be in the single digits. It was by the hair of the chinny chin here for the Loki. And that is a rough time because we've talked about this earlier. This Loki getting into fights, it's so hard when it comes to the team fights. You have to find the pick. And those are just so hard to find.
Another pick being found here. Hey, onto Shinto. We'll take it. That's a fantastic boon to your side. You can see the gates have been opened just where Shinto's life was closed. That leaves PPP open to maybe try to take an aggressive fight. They're still positioning themselves a bit more on the defensive end, luring Scrumptious in, recognizing, hey, they still have the aggression. We don't want to push our boundaries a bit too much. Still going to try to look for the fight, though. Bacchus dropping down a decent amount. Haddix could be in trouble here. Might be the first one to go. The flop over the wall, followed by the lunge and the cage. A wall to try to block them off. There's the spell eater, does decent damage. Haddix goes down. Should have heeded our command, should have heeded our words. Fenrir going to be able to escape thanks to that Ragnarok potentially. Not the cannon event you were hoping for. They dodged that Gungir's Might and means the puppy dog will live. Overall, a solid fight there for PPP. Pyromancer is their reward.
And this is fantastic by PPP. They get a fight that goes on their side of the jungle. Now Zapman might actually be in trouble. The jump in by Heed, trying to find a kill. Can he find it? Golden finds it. And this is PPP now getting aggressive in Scrumptious' jungle.
They might need to back up before they overstay their welcome. Ymir's in trouble and will fall. Anxious will die for that one. Golden follows it up, though, onto Gone. There's still decent damage here onto Heed. This could be troublesome. They did take down the Susano, which means the odds are in their favor. The Sunder drops down on top of the Odin. It's not enough. Golden will fall once again. And now at this point, the Fenrir emboldened, scratching away at the health bars of these raiders who have now been driven out of the jungle. Heed will fall as well. What looked like a solid engagement quickly had the table turned.
You know, here's the deal. was gonna praise that PPP turned it around and then went and got the objective. Like, they had the chase potential, right? They turn it around, they go to Pyro, they secure the Pyro, and I was like, wow, that took a lot of, effort in comms to be like, okay, we got the Pyro, we stop here. Like, we ended our aggression, but no, they got Pyro and they're like, everybody, it's time to run it down. And they ran it straight into the enemy jungle, and it goes well for, a few seconds. It looks good, but then all of a sudden, they get just absolutely dumpstered upon there. Unfortunate, like, you over-aggress. And what was the cost? The cost was you get a Pyro, but you lose some on the back end, and now you give Scrumptious a third Gold Fury. And we're not even 17 minutes into the game. They have all the Gold Fury buffs in their hands. They hold the deck of cards, and they control what you do now.
They had a canary in the coal mine, Blaze. They had Anxious, who you gotta imagine is kicking their feet, kicking a rock on the floor, saying, guys, I don't know who should be up here. And then they go down. So the canary in the coal mine, the ice giant in the jungle is whistling its tune, indicating, hey, let's get the hell out of here before we get bopped. They didn't listen, and they suffocated for it. Now trying to bring that same kind of pain here in the jungle. Some decent damage already falling on top of Haddix. The Bacchus is here to party, though. Drops the Intoxicate before they drop as well. A nice kill there at the expense of that cage. Not too shabby, though. We'll take this 5v4. But hey, we got a cage for you instead, my friend. Heard you like those. They got to leap out, though. It could be troublesome for the Morgan. The airstrike to escape. They bring it right back, and they're still grouped PPP. Looking for any targets that cross. Yarkor separated, though, and now separated from their life as well. The Fenrir going to bring back one. It's the Ice Giant. Your canary in the coal mine has had its wings clipped. Double kill there for Zap. A nice pillar stun could bring trouble here for the Odin, but a Gungir's Might brings that trouble right back to the Onher. The Aegis might save them. The Jingwei's trying to go toe for toe, but it's too late for 1v1s. I brought backup this time. Fenrir trying to juke their way out. Not going to be enough. Golden finds the kill on a wrong you. Gon gets taken out there by Baronary for the killing spree. PPP are bringing the pressure.
I mean, what an absolute crazy play, because if you're PPP and you're stepping up and you only see Haddix, you have to start questioning, where is everybody else? Because there is nothing on the map to go grab. Gold, Pyro, Fire, nothing's going on because you're at Fire. You would know if they're there. And PPP step up, find out, get Haddix, and it looks like it's going to get turned on their head. And that is absolutely not what happens. They lose one, and then he goes, okay, let's go fight at our tier 2, and they turn it around. PPP might be 8,000 gold behind, but as we just saw, they picked up an extra kill on the Shinto just now, and they have to be feeling pretty good here at 18 minutes, almost 19 minutes in the game, as Fire Giant's up, and they know that they can play a defense or maybe even get aggressive and make a play for it.
This is a bit scary, I'm not gonna lie. You gotta imagine Anxious once again clicking their heels saying, I don't know about this one, guys. My health bar is awfully low. The cage has been dropped, the Fire Giant potentially picked up, but the shards of ice are falling. Might be Amir falling right afterwards. Anxious goes down. Zapman will fall shortly after to Baronary. Gon's gone. Golden's dead. Rongyu's trying to get playing a game of fetch here and now has to retreat back through the gates for the Kante. Shut down there on top of Golden for Rongyu. Still going aggressive. They're unchained. They're unbound. They're absolutely crazy and they're dead. He takes down the puppy dog finally, and Baronary has to escape before this drunken psychopath chases them down. Odin's going to be able to slow their advance with that bird bomb, which brings an end to the bloodshed.
Does it? He's under attack right now. Haddix,
Never mind.
Shinto getting aggressive, and he goes, hey, guess what? I'm going to get out. And I don't know that Scrumptious want to let him go. They will for the time being, but PPP step up to a Fire Giant. And if this is any other team, this goes poor. They get absolutely obliterated there. No, they drop it and they turn around and turn the fight to their favor. In fact, after they win the fight, they also get Haddix and Shinto to step up to pick up another kill. Again, we were talking about 8,000 gold after that last fight. We're down to 7,000. PPP is now matriculating their way back into this game slowly but surely. Can they keep it consistent? I'm not so sure, but Ancient Fury is about to spawn, and it's looking like the thing you may want to go for at this point.
Scrumptious is bleeding, Blaze. They are bleeding. They're slowly giving them kills that they should not be giving them in the first place. Now it's Ancient Fury. You cannot afford this objective to go down, not just for what it brings the team, but the momentum the confidence that's surging forth as he surges forth as well. But the Fenrir brought back a toy. Shinto can't play with it. They're dead. Anxious might be next, charging those shards of ice, but the cage has been dropped, and Jingwei goes aggressive, finds Zapman, puts 2 arrows in their back. Anxious, the Canary, they survived. They lived to sing another song, and now they maybe live to get this Ancient Fury as well. PPP looking to take it away, but can they leave with their lives? It goes down with no issue. The Canary puts down the wall, trying to escape. They go back for more. That's one loyal bird. They might look for the fight. Scrumptious are trying to tempt fate here and has not gone their way so far. Odin makes the leap. Bacchus does the same. They find the kill, though, onto Yarkor, walling off their escape. That's okay. Haddix wants to be in the fray. Susano gonna be followed up, and now Anxious having to turn tail and run once again. The belch gonna be frozen away, but the Glacial Strike will not save you. The Canary is down once again, thanks to Haddix's Meat Club. They will fall shortly after, and now the Fenrir trying to finish the job. It seems they'll let the corpses lie where they may. PPP find that fury. Unfortunately, both sides find some bodies.
And what's crazy is you look at this and you're like, oh, Scrumptious might have come out on top there. Absolutely not. No. PPP pulled off a crazy pull there that they had to drop. They had to turn the fight around. And the golden opportunity arose for Golden to go in as the Jingwei and play an aggressive hunter. Dive into the enemy backline and pick up a kill that led to them then being able to get the Gold Fury. And that Ancient Fury shuts down all the objectives. So if they're able at some point to get a push, they don't have to worry about being attacked by a tier 1, tier 2 Phoenix. They can push it and allow Anxious, hopefully, to maybe get some farm. Now level 13 here at 23 minutes into the game. But Golden is playing like a mad lad here at 7, 3, and 5 on the Jingwei. And Baronary has been putting on an absolute Hecate clinic here in the mid lane on this god. PPP are not going to give this up without a fight. They have been fighting their way back in slowly but surely, and they have stifled some of that gold lead, but they're gonna have to not let Scrumptious get all the objectives that are on the map like they're doing right now.
Pyromancer goes down, Naga goes down, just as you said. PPP do not want to go gentle into that good smite, but they're kind of doing so at the moment. Now FG next. Scrumptious feel emboldened, and I'm not sure if PPP are aware Yarkor is just backing to base. PPP, you got to step up to the plate here, my friend. This is your time to shine. Here comes the cages, but it's not going to be enough. Wrong takes that down, and you're in the wrong neighborhood now, Odin. Going to be a cannon event in a second here, but the Fenrir is going to go back in instead, looking for the squishies. Anxious still in one left on the battlefield as Jingwei airstrikes back to safety. Scrumptious maybe calling the horn for a retreat as PPP try to rally to find a single target. Golden backs away, but the jet stream makes them catch up. They're sliced to pieces there by Gone. It's Golden and Shinto down so far. Anxious follows. No more Canary means you have no more songs to sing. Yarkor traded for Haddix. It's a fight in the blue buff, but there's no buffs left to win. It's only death and destruction that await you. The pillars drop down, slowing Heed to a crawl, and now slowing their heart rate to 0. Baronary goes down as well. It's a deicide here. It's all too tasty for Scrumptious.
What a ballsy play by Scrumptious to step up to the fire. No one's down. They get him to step up. They get the fire within an Odin cage. They turn it around, and they do everything to absolute precision. They go in, and Gone literally might as well change their name to Bye Bye Bye, because that's all PPP is seeing at this point. You step up to the Susano, and you're gonna find out you're on the gray screen soon enough. Takes out Golden. Golden has been playing absolutely aggressive on this Jingwei. Had to airstrike out. Thought, hey, I'm in the safety. I'm in the bushes. No, you're not. Here comes the Typhoon. Takes him down. Baronary is the only one that lives through the aggression that is Gone. And at this point, Scrumptious is looking real tasty at this point in the game, because now they can eye the gold. They can see it. They know it is in their grasp. All they have to do at this point is get this Gold Fury and then execute the game plan, which is find a pick and end the game. And guess who's coming right to the Gold Fury to help them out? PPP is stepping up, and I think they're slowly but surely going, hey, I don't think this game plan's in our favor. Maybe we should retreat.
The Canary whistles their tune, and PPP for once do listen to its song. They retreat back. Ancient Fury here for Scrumptious, and it's worth noting PPP grabbed it before, but you can't tell based on the map state almost all of their towers still stand. You certainly will not be able to say the same thing here for PPP as that tier 2 in that left lane goes down. Phoenix going to be up next as Scrumptious walk 5-man strong. Yarkor, get back home. We need you. Our Canary's about to be plucked once again. The gates have been opened, but do they bring back any targets? Not quite just yet. The Shards of Ice charge, and it's going to be Heed who goes down first. Haddix is just fine for their troubles. The Wind Siphon brings back in the Jing Wei as the Phoenix gets eliminated. At the very least, Golden stays safe. This is what you need. The basics raining down. Force Scrumptious back just a bit, and Ymir's forced back into the fountain as well. Scrumptious biding their time, looking to get that next bird before they begin anew.
And if you want to talk about patience and how to execute the ending of a game, this is it. Scrumptious, left side bird, step up, say, hey, can we end? No. Get the mid side bird, tier 2 and right. Now eyeing down the last bird on the map, getting all those protections off the Titan. This is how you do it. There's no need to play overly aggressive right now. Take your time and end the game. Scrumptious are doing just that as the fight breaks out under the right-hand bird.
Low health bars on both sides, but it's going to be Golden who goes down first. Yarkor to follow. Baronary afterwards is an absolute slaughter. And all you can do is whistle your sad song before you fall as well. Beautiful work here by Scrumptious as they dismantle the entire composition. And all Odin can do is watch. That's what Scrumptious is going to have to make sure they put the final nail in the coffin as Heed goes down. Try to do something. I double dog dare you. Scrumptious wins Smite Prime Finals.
Scrumptious come there with an all-you-can-eat buffet at the Titan room. They got the birds, they got the tier 2, and then they say, you know what's left? Your team, and they deicide PPP for the end. But this will not be the end of PPP. They have made it here to the finals. They have shown, hey, we can keep up with the big dogs. We just need to work on a few things to get the execution. That game went really well for them for, I would say, the first 20 to 25 minutes, and then it kind of just got turned on its head. It's like it went like, hey, we're working our way back. We're back to like 5,000 gold under, and Scrumptious goes, hey, that's cool. We're glad we got you to catch up, but it's time to put the pedal to the metal and run it down. We got to get over to the Golden Corral to get all the food we can eat.
Ugh, Golden Corral. Personally, more of a CC's guy myself, but the way they were scarfing it down does not matter. To them, it's just calories, and they were gobbling it up by the handful. Yarkor and hors d'oeuvre. Golden, the main course. Anytime they looked at this Jing Wei, you had to shudder because that's what they needed to do. You asked for it, Blaze, and eventually they were able to deliver. There's just only so much that one player could do, and Baronary and Golden were both trying so hard. Every member was. The comp, though, just wasn't able to quite put the pieces together. Sometimes it's just a bit too little, a bit too late.
Yeah, and I mean, this really comes down to them not being able to keep anxious in the game. I mean, that really and truly the comp broke down there where you need to have this Ymir somewhere near your level. I mean, it's 3 levels behind them, 4 levels behind. At the end of the game, 6 levels behind. It doesn't feel good. I mean, I think we've all been in support at some point where it's been like that. It feels bad. And especially at comp, because you start to feel useless and like you are a problem for your team. Now, I do like what Anxious did here, because Anxious still went in there and still threw up walls, still got good freezes, and still tried to get some of the damage off. Did try to peel from time to time. This wasn't a thing where Anxious just sold. It was a thing where Anxious literally just got zoned out of the map, where you get worried that, hey, I'm so far behind, I don't want to take farm from my team. And as a support, it becomes a really hard kind of seesaw of what's the best option for us here. But
Yeah.
Scrumptious really made this look good. All right. It was a close battle. And then all of a sudden they said, hey, we're at late game. We know what we want to do to execute. And they did. They got those first 3 gold furies. PPP fought back after that. So PPP, there was the potential there. Again, it's small things that have to be executed. We've talked about this macro play. Scrumptious was on top of the macro for most of this game.
Yeah, I've really respected the moxie they brought. It's just at a certain point when you have players like Scrumptious, that macro play, recognizing when to put the ganks on, the cost of a gank, sometimes just seeing too much invested by PPP into not enough resources for return, you end up with empty hands. But At the very least, they can say they gave it a hell of an effort. Certainly was respectable what we saw on the field from both sides. But that being said, that is all we have for you here today this week for Smite Prime. Week 4 between PPP and Scrumptious taking the victory. Congratulations, PPP. Better luck next time. I've been D'Lo, joined here by the vocal talents of Blaze McBain. You heard the golden, silky smooth voice of Spooky Mars earlier this evening. Almighty eyes in the sky. We had Tess and Mort running the show. Jithens, man behind the curtain, please drop. Huge thanks for our production team. We could not yell about a game without them. And last, but certainly not least, thank you, loyal, obedient viewer, for your time. We hope you've enjoyed these games just as much as we have. Keep an eye to the sky for more Smite Prime tourneys coming at you. And with that, good games and good night.